Okay.
Welcome to the Out There channel, live stream 354. Oh, what was that click noise? Strange sound we just got then. Looks like it's going alright. CPU's going crazy. Oh, something's going crazy here.
Twitch is going alright. Lovely picture.
Yeah, it should be speeding up now. So who's out there today? 3 viewers, I reckons. Although it hasn't updated the other screen yet.
Like I said last week, 3 amigos.
Oh, we're up to there already. Hello, good to be back. Good to be back. Hello. Did you miss me? Yeah. No hardcore swearing on the side, no trolling, no self-promotion, no promoting forward channels, and just have some fun and listen to UFO cases with Robert and Charles. Well, Charles will be the co-pilot to give his opinion. Yeah, something's sort of going crazy here. It's sort of like getting double clicks on the mouse for some reason. Hopefully Windows hasn't done something nasty again. Like yesterday it was playing up too with the double clicks. Anyway, better type up welcome message on the site.
Probably all these updates.
Yeah, something crazy going on again, I think. Men in black again. So, Robert, what are we doing today?
Well, first up, let's have a look at this bit of news that was on Fox Week this week with Tucker Carlson about the intelligence report, right, stating the triangle came out of the ocean, you know, the one that nobody's seen as yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we can play that. It's about 4 minutes long, I think, Paul.
Okay.
And it's news, so we can play that with impunity.
Right. Okay, I just got the welcome message up as well. Okay, if you're out there on the watching, do say hi in the side chat. Although I don't think there's anyone around at the moment.
Okay.
So let's post that around. Merry Christmas, everybody, as well. Coming up to Friday, Christmas in New Zealand. And we're not too sure about next weekend, but we'll let you know probably Saturday what's happening. We generally do a show.
Yeah, well, why not? I don't understand why not.
Well, just in case something happens, you know, we've got family over and...
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah, and maybe internet goes down, or, you know, it's got to be everybody home on the internet, right? You never know, but we'll just keep an eye on it next week before we confirm stuff. Anyway, it'll be confirmed on Discord if you're on Discord. Yeah, remember Discord is able to be installed on all devices, so best to have it on your phone because you can use it like Facebook then, and you get messages, direct messages pop up and all that sort of stuff. You don't have to use it on a laptop. Also, the Merc store should work on the phone as well. And because Area 51, I'm not sure if he's with us yet. He might not be around. He said that he needs to be on the laptop. And then I realised that you don't have to be on one particular device to watch us or interact with us. You should be on any devices, should be possible. So this is the first article we got coming up now. And already I got this strange click business going on. I'm not sure if it's a key stuck down or what, but every so often it keeps making it maximum screen. So just play all this, Robert.
Yeah, start to finish, please.
Unidentified UAP. Okay, let's see if the volume's right. Oh, it's that one that's really low.
Late last year, a U.S.
Okay, that's no good volume. It's extremely bad volume.
Did one or two like that last night?
This one here is half the volume it should be. I actually did rip this one and boost the volume, I think. Well, anyway, if we use that, which one's on the that one? Yeah, I'll just see if I can boost it up on the fly. Is it playing?
No.
FA-18 fighter
No,
jet
it is.
took a very clear photograph on a personal
I think I got that double
triangle
click business going.
identified aerial phenomenon. That vehicle, whatever it was, appeared to be operating with
Still
a
low
propulsion
sound.
system that generated no
Yeah.
visible exhaust. Hard to see how that could happen. The sighting likely places the UFO near a U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier.
Yeah, it's shit, isn't it?
Surprising because a string
I got it on
of
maximum
sightings
here.
have involved nuclear reactors.
Means we're going to have to use the special
That same
booster.
report also goes into some detail.
That's because this ain't redirecting to the right place. Let's go through the speaker. Let me just see if I can.
On underwater UFOs,
There we go.
which behave in ways that science can't explain. Tom Rogan has been following all of this quite carefully for some time. He's a columnist.
Maximum volume now.
Have him on tonight. Tom, thanks.
Okay, you need to
First,
get that back
tell
to
us
the
about the
beginning,
sighting
Paul.
in late 2000.
It stopped again. Something strange going on.
FA-18 fighter jet took a very clear photograph on a personal phone of a triangle-shaped unidentified aerial phenomenon. That vehicle, whatever it was, appeared to be operating with a propulsion system that generated no visible exhaust. Hard to see how that could happen. The sighting likely places the UFO near a U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. That shouldn't be surprising because a string of UFO sightings have involved nuclear reactors and warheads. That same report also goes into some detail on underwater UFOs, which behave in ways that science can't explain. Tom Rogan has been following all of this quite carefully for some time. He's a columnist at the Washington Examiner. We're happy to have him on tonight. Tom, thanks for coming on. First, tell us about the sighting in late 2019.
Yeah, good to be with you, Tucker, and thanks for covering this because not enough journalists, I think, do. The late 2019 incident essentially involved a US carrier strike group, as with the incident in 2004 and 15, doing its workups on pre-deployment, preparing to go abroad and do the missions that the Navy are assigned. And the pilots are flying off the coast, off the Atlantic seaboard, and see essentially a black triangle, white sort of indicator lights on its peripheral tips coming out of the water very quickly, and then accelerating at extremely high speed at about a 90-degree angle. And one of the pilots took a photo, very good photo, I'm told, by multiple sources on his iPhone, and myself and Tim McMillan, who really led the charge in this investigation, have sort of tied it down. So I think the real point of note on this is that this phenomenon, whatever it is, continues to occur.
It came out of the water. So expound on that a little bit. There have been over the years a number of reports of unidentified underwater vehicles moving in ways that don't make any sense at all. Tell us what you know about that.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons the Navy is very sensitive about this topic, is because it essentially doesn't want either China or Russia in particular to figure out whatever these vehicles are, because they appear to be intelligently controlled, figure out how they do what they do, because they move at hundreds of knots under the water, or at least they can, and they maneuver in ways that would essentially render a submarine or an aircraft carrier or any, quite frankly, military warship extremely vulnerable to attack. And the capabilities, because of what we understand in terms of friction under the water, right, that these things manifest, and then what they do in the air as well, you know, this is some special stuff, whatever it is.
Well, a bullet doesn't travel hundreds of knots an hour underwater for long. I mean, I don't think any human-made object ever has. We've never imagined something like that. So what could be the explanation?
You know, and it's very interesting. The Russians have a new system called Canyon, which is an underwater drone system that travels very fast, but nowhere near as fast as these things, and is nuclear powered. And so it's a very different propulsion system. And I think that is the exigent point, that what these things can do in air, underwater, in space, at least in low orbit, are beyond any capability that we can identify with an Earth nation, either in delivery, in platform, something that a military is showing, or is in development.
Right. Or has even been conceived of. I mean, let's be honest. This is really out of the realm. Tom, great to see you tonight. Thank you for that report. Right.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things about that. On the positive side, it's good to see the mainstream media covering it. Yeah, no question. That's good. The downside, I think that Tom Brogan, he's just a journalist, isn't he? He did say that he's working with Tim McMillan. Now, Tom Brogan, and no other UFO researcher or investigative journalist has seen this photograph.
No.
There is no chain of custody for it.
Well, of course, it's on an iPhone.
We don't even have it. We don't even have the photograph. Apparently, it's been doing the rounds in the Senate and the intelligence community, and there's a lot of high-level people seeing it, but we don't know a single name. Not a single name. So we can't verify any of the sources about this. So you could call that slightly irresponsible by running that story when there's absolutely nothing that we've got to back it up.
Yeah, plus he didn't ask the question, are pilots allowed iPhones and fighter jets?
Well, obviously they are. If that's the case, it seems they are. I know if you're working in the intelligence agencies, you're not allowed to bring your phone into the building. You can leave it in the car park in your car outside, and then go out as needed. So, I mean, I don't want it. I think it's kind of irrelevant if they're allowed one or not.
I have Googled it. I have Googled it, and they are allowed phones. Yeah.
Well, it does, because they might be allowed it in there, but as long as they turn off the radio transmitter, and that might be there might be a lot of a clause to that. You can have it on you see, but disable, put it on airplane mode, right? And you can still use it as a camera.
Yes. Yeah, airplane mode or safe mode, whatever they call it.
Well, they might even have, who knows, they might even have some sort of connection point for the phone to connect into, like satellite internet. Who knows? But
yeah, you never know.
That's the sort of stuff that we would like to know, though, the technical side of things. And why did the guy only take a photograph as well? Why didn't you have it on video mode and video the damn thing shooting off at high speed, you know? Why just take one photograph?
Well, it doesn't mean to say there's no gun camera footage as well. We don't know, do we? In fact, this is my whole point. It's all too vague. All too vague.
Well, if they're gonna leak out a photograph, then they're gonna have to the government have to admit that they've got the cam footage and release the full HD video of it all.
Well, they might not have it, or they might not have it. I don't know. There's too many grey areas around this.
Well, I suppose it depends if the plane actually had one of these pods on it, because I think they're not compulsory, are they, on all planes?
No.
Who's to say they're going to release the video anyway if they want to keep it silenced?
But surely all cockpits have flight recorders, right? So they must record all the voice chat, so they could release that at least. Are you seeing us? UFO outside? Triangle? What is it?
Well, with an Nimitz encounter. Yeah, with an Nimitz encounter, David Fravors' plane wasn't equipped with that kind of it was the Raytheon camera system or whatever it was, but Chad Underwood's aircraft was, so he went up into the air after David Fravor had come in, and he managed to capture the Tic Tac.
Yeah,
so some aircraft are and some aren't.
No, all planes have black boxes to record chick chat, so they can investigate if it blows up.
Yeah, the black box isn't there for taking visual photographs, Paul. That's only in case of an accident.
But it records all voice traffic on it.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So where's David Fravor's voice recording then? In that case, you know. They could extract it before it gets erased for the next flight, you know. But anyway, there's still more questions than answers as usual. And whether it's disinformation or what, I don't know.
That's my concern.
And these guys may say that they got something and turn out to be nothing, right? And ends up being good publicity because they got on TV for their new news website, right? For leaks on UFOs and government whistleblowers. You know, it sounds very much like Tyler Clockner again from Security, doesn't it? And yeah, that's Nothing Burger as well, as we know.
Yeah, but you do realise that even if the photo emerges as a standalone photo, it's going to get picked up. The skeptics are going to pick away at it, and could call it CGI. They could call it anything, couldn't they?
That's why you need a video as well, really.
Well, it's not just that. You need a story surrounding it. You need testimony to go with it.
I think if you got radar. You got the voice traffic, and you got radar information, and you got video.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, Paul. It's no good as a standalone photo. It needs those other aspects as well to turn it into something solid.
Yeah, as well as they'll release them.
You're making my point for me.
Yeah.
No, I thought you were just saying eyewitness account talking about it. So we were looking at actually. Well. Yeah, we're looking at hard data here.
Yeah, but if you get the pilot on record as well, that all helps, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Start getting the complete picture then.
Well, it makes it really hard for the skeptics to deny that there was something there, you know, and...
Just 1 second, you've got to close doors after this dog again.
Okay, so we need to go with the next topic, which was on the list here.
Paul, no, don't go with that.
That's what you sent
me.
Not
now. No. I haven't sent you that.
What do you mean he hasn't sent me that? He sent it to me yesterday on live.
Maybe he's changed it.
Well, I hope not, because the title, I've already got the title as Red Bluff and all that. So I hope he hasn't changed it. He should have given me an update if he changed it before I started the show. They're going to change the title.
Paul, you don't have to. I said UAP news, and we're covering that now. Okay.
Yeah. What's the next topic?
UAP news. We're still on it.
No, it's still on it.
You can make it into subcats if you want,
Yeah.
but I don't really see the point. Hey, Tommy's here. How's it going?
That's right, I'm on Discord. A wee bit late, 20 minutes going into the show now. Yeah, so carry on then.
Yeah, I've given you another link.
I can't see it.
Well, you need to look then, Paul. That's about the gist of it, isn't it?
It's not on my list.
I can't see one, Robert.
Well, it's down the side chat.
Did you push enter?
Yeah. Let me try it again.
The YouTube.com watch.
There you go. It's up there twice now.
They come up this time.
Yeah.
It's come up twice. Same link.
I can see it now.
Hang on, the same link was the video, wasn't it? That we got currently playing.
No, it's John Brennan, the CIA director.
Let's see.
There you go.
Why is it so slow loading though? It's just crazy. So you did post it twice, but looks like other chat got in the way. Okay, so the Black Vault.
It wasn't hard to find. I don't know what's wrong with you today, Paul.
Well, Charles didn't see it either.
No argument.
Well, where do we start? There's going to be music on the front, isn't it? Oh. December. Okay, is that right? Let's pause it again. They've done something to the player.
Yeah, it's easy to.
If you scroll the timeline now, it automatically pauses the video.
So let's say we take a concrete issue. The Navy has reported that a lot of its pilots have seen unidentified flying objects.
Yeah.
And if you're tackling that as a CIA director or someone who works there, what is it you would sift through and interpret? How would that go?
Well, I've seen some of those videos from Navy pilots, and I must tell you that they are quite eyebrow-raising when you look at them. And you try to ensure that you have as much data as possible in terms of visuals, also different types of maybe technical collection of sensors that you have at the time. But then you also, I believe it's important to reach out into other environments and find out, well, were there any type of weather phenomena at that time that might have in fact created the appearance of the phenomenon that you're looking at? Were there some things that were happening sort of on the ground or other types of phenomena that again could help explain what seems to be quite a mystery as far as what it is there? But I think the important thing for analysts to do is not to go into this type of challenge, either discounting certain types of possibilities or believing in advance that it is likely X, Y, or Z. You really have to approach it with an open mind, but get as much data as possible and get as much expertise as possible brought to bear.
So at the end of all that sifting and interpreting, what do you think is the most likely hypothesis?
I don't know. When people talk about it, is there other life besides what's in the United States, in the world, the globe? Life is defined in many different ways. And I think it's a bit presumptuous, if not arrogant, for us to believe that there's no other form of life anywhere in the entire universe. What that might, be is, I think, subject to, a lot of different views. But I think some of the phenomena we're going to be seeing continues to be unexplained, and might in fact be some type of phenomenon that is the result of something that we don't yet understand, and that could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life.
But being an agnostic, you don't think it's something supernatural?
Well, supernatural. Again, it's the eye of the
Silly
beholder.
question.
I'm not going to discount things. That's why I'm an agnostic as opposed to an atheist. I just want to leave my mind open as to what something might be. But who knows what these things might be.
He looks terrified, that guy. He's got his hand on his face. He's looking down all the time.
He looks agitated.
The body language wasn't really good at all, was it?
And
he's ex-CIA, was he? He was ex-CIA.
Yeah, John Brennan said, Paul, can I just get in there somewhere? John Brennan was the CIA director under the Obama administration. He left office in January 2017. He done 4 years as now. So he was there. This is before the Nimitz encounters, wasn't it? No, sorry, not the Nimitz one, but no. So he'd have had access. Did he even say in there about he's seen some videos? So he would have seen everything from the Nimitz encounter and the 2015 Roosevelt encounter as well. Now, I reckon he's seen a lot more than those 3 grainy videos that we've seen. So it's quite interesting that you should say that.
Yeah, but his body language suggests that he's not being quite open here. Or he's not
Paul,
sure what he's...
body language expert, and nor am I. His whole interview is conducted like that. Even when he's being asked questions, when he's comfortable with, you can find the entire interview on the Black Vaults. It's about 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's quite good.
I don't know. There's something not right with that guy.
It's not all about UFOs. At the end of the day, the guy's getting on a bit now. He looked tired. That the only impression I got about that interview, he just looked tired. That's all.
I don't know. Maybe he's a bit worried about breaking his NDA accidentally. On these interviews.
Oh yeah. He was cagey, wasn't he, Paul? He didn't commit himself, did he? Now, if I was interviewing him, I'd have asked straight away, which videos did you see? But he would have probably shut down shop, wouldn't he?
I don't know.
He looks to me like he's got the onset of Parkinson's that only coming on him.
Well, it's possible.
Well, we don't know why he's retired for a start. So yeah, I don't know, but I wouldn't like to hazard a guess like that. But he didn't look particularly comfortable with the interview.
He didn't want to be there, I don't think, anyway. Like if he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. Yeah. But nevertheless, what he said was quite interesting. Yeah. About those videos. I thought that was worth pointing out anyway. But I didn't see any signs of deception. But there was plenty of signs that he was a bit fed up with the interview. He only gets really animated when towards the end of the interview he actually he was asked what he thought about Donald Trump, but you can go back and watch that anytime. But that covered the whole UFO aspect of the interview.
Donald Trump's like Marmite, isn't it? You love him or hate him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so
next one.
Bloody hell, JD's on. You're not working today, Monday. It's raining.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you.
Hi, JD.
Okay, I've left a link. Moving on to the nuclear incursions at Minot Air Force Base. The main one was 1968, but there's a series of incidents, and I think they covered in this article, which is quite long.
You sure we haven't covered that before? It seems to ring a bell.
We've probably touched on it as part of another show.
That one.
Yeah, maybe.
That sounds very familiar. Anyway, people out there will say
we did cover the one at Malmstrom Air Force Base. So you could be getting mixed up with that, the one with Bob Sellers.
Maybe.
I don't think we've looked at the incursions at Minot in detail. Minot Air Force Base, I think, now off the top of my head, it's in North Dakota.
Yep, says that on the screen.
Okay.
I wonder if it come up on Google Maps. The mouse is doing some strange things.
Do you know, I think there's illustrations of the base and a map in the actual article, Paul.
Well, we're going there now. Hopefully. Okay. What's this popping up now? Recommends using Chrome. Of course you do, Google, you scumbags. No thanks. So it looks like it's a fairly big Air Force base here, is it? Covers a few blocks there, blocks what? Each of these are a block in America.
Well, yeah, it's going to be high security. They had ICBMs there as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I clicked on that for... There you go, big runway. Lots of paddocks around. In the middle of nowhere, by the looks of it. Look at that, right in the middle of nowhere, really. And all the way out. Whoa, look at that. There it is, smack in the middle. Yeah. So we know where we're heading. It's actually right on the border line there, is it, as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's see if it reads. That's going to be fun. Where's it gone?
North Dakota has its own share of UFO encounters.
Wrong place, stupid Google.
Many other military installations around the United States. Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota has its own share of UFO encounters to its name, as does the state within which it resides. While we will examine other events shortly, one particular incident in the fall of 1968 would see multiple military personnel witness a bizarre and most definitely unconventional aircraft for over 3 hours.
Sounds loud enough.
Furthermore, radar operators would also read the strange anomaly, as it maintained its pace with a B-52 plane no less, while the crew of the B-52 would also witness the craft for themselves visually, and seemingly hovering on or near the ground below them. Perhaps of even more concern were the outer and inner zone alarm systems of Launch Facility Oscar 7, which indicated a breach or override, either of which could have disastrous consequences. A reproduction of the events from the Minot Air Force Base incident. The case would come under Project Blue Book before it would cease its operations the following year. Perhaps, then, this is the reason the incident has remained on the back burner of the collective memory, instead of the fascinating and potentially earth-shattering event that it very much appears to have been. Just what were the strange objects carrying out maneuvers unthinkable, even today, over the North Dakota Air Base? And for what purpose were they here? Was the incident intentionally and discreetly played down by the relevant authorities of the time? And if so, why? And might there be a connection to the many other UFO sightings in the area, and indeed across the United States and around the planet? The Minot Air Force Base incidents lead us ultimately to the same question as other similar incidents. Just what is the intelligence behind these otherworldly crafts, and how much do the appropriate governments know about it? Contents. An unusual light in the early hours.
Easier said than
Reports from all around the base and launch facilities.
Give me a chance.
Somebody is seeing flying saucers again.
I'm trying to get that header, but it's
like a miniature sun placed on.
Here we go.
In the early hours of October 24, 1968, around 1 a.m., while residents of the state of North Dakota were most likely asleep in their beds, a camper team at the Oscar 6 launch facility at Minot Air Force Base would notice a large glowing object overhead.
Mr.
The
Lighter
unit,
Man.
who were the above-ground security for an underground operation being carried out by the target alignment team, would report the sighting immediately to their on-duty superior, Security Controller Staff Sergeant William Smith. According to the unit, the object went down by some trees near to the base. A little while later, at around 2:30 a.m., another unit, Missile Maintenance Crew, Robert O'Connor and Lloyd Isley, would issue a similar report to Smith. This time of an unusual light east of the base. The pair were driving at the time of the sighting, on their way to the N7 launch facility. They would state the light, whatever it was pacing their vehicle. They would arrive at the launch facility and note that the craft was now south of their position. An aerial view of the facility. Sensing that something truly extraordinary was afoot, the dispatcher connected O'Connor and Isley's communications to those of Radar Approach Control, RAPCON. As the early hours gave way to the dawn, this open line would record multiple reports from Minot Air Force Base personnel. Of most concern to the base were the remaining launch control facilities, LCF, who steadily, but surely, would begin reporting their own sightings of the strange, glowing object overhead their destinations, and the deadly payloads they housed. Reports from all around the base and launch facilities. As events continued to unfold, so did the reports and varying details of this most bizarre encounter. One report claimed they could see an object that looked like the sun, but which approached the security fencing of his location, hovered for a second, and then zoomed away again. The officer in question would send two of his team to follow the glowing object. They would do so for around half a mile. Then it appeared to land in a clearing. The lower it got to the ground, the dimmer the light became until it disappeared completely. A depiction of the sighting from the control tower. Perhaps an even stranger report speaks of the object separating in two parts and going in opposite directions. They would then return and pass under each other very purposely. Several other reports would speak of a large, brightly illuminated object overhead that would accelerate and change direction rapidly. Furthermore, several colors would emanate from the object, from brilliant white to amber and green. The reports were in abundance, and despite the differing details of the lights, the descriptions of the orange glow and the round or saucer-shaped craft is testament to the very real nature of the events of October 14, 1968. While the military personnel on the ground would witness the objects, both on radar and visually, a returning B-52 plane to Minot Air Force Base would also experience one of the objects. And it would appear at close range to boot. Somebody is seeing flying saucers again. Shortly after 3 a.m., the B-52 plane in question, returning to the base following a 10-hour, high-altitude training exercise, would receive orders from RAPCON ground control. And those orders were loud and clear. Look out toward your 1 o'clock position for the next 15 or 16 miles, and see if you see any orange glows out there. Somebody is seeing flying saucers again. Initially, none of the crew of the B-52 plane could see anything out of the ordinary. By the time they were making a direct approach to the runway, at just after 3:50 a.m., they would receive further information from the RAPCON ground control. According to this latest report, the object in question was clear on their radar. Furthermore, the crew should be able to see it in their 1 o'clock position within the next 3 miles. Many pilots and military personnel witness UFOs.
Pause it there, Paul. Cheers.
Yep.
Yeah, RAPCON is Rapid Approach Control. It's like an emergency response team. Something is, and obviously it's such a high security base that you'd have to have, for them to be called in. It's obviously it's becoming quite a serious matter. If you're with me.
rapid response, like terrorists or whatever, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Stuff like that.
yeah. Of course, your first thoughts would point towards the positions in Chinese, but on this occasion, it didn't seem to be the case.
Mm.
And of course, this was it wouldn't have been China in 1968, would it? But there we go.
Did I say it right? China. Do we carry on?
Yeah.
As this information was coming through, the radar system on the B-52 began to also pick up the anomaly. Within 3 seconds, the object had seemingly covered 2 miles, causing palpable concerns among the crew of an imminent mid-air crash. One of the crew members and navigator on the night in question, Captain Patrick McCaslin, would recall. I knew whatever it was that there was something there that I'd never seen on radar. I don't know of anything that could go laterally in 3 seconds, 2 miles, and just stop. It was maintaining our descent rate, and then just laterally to 1 mile, perfect formation. As the B-52 continued its descent with the UFO maintaining the 1 mile cushion to the left of the plane, the UHF radio transmission systems to Rapkin went dead. This would continue for around 20 miles. Like a miniature sun placed on the ground. Even more intriguing, just before the object vanished, and the transmission systems came back online, the radarscope camera of the plane managed to capture several seconds of footage of the object as it spiraled around. With the object gone, despite the obvious unsettled feeling among the crew, instead of coming straight into land they would run a practiced missed landing, and so take back to the air. The plan was to circle around once more before bringing the plane into land for real. Many details of UFOs are very similar. However, before they could begin another approach, a high-ranking officer, a general at the base, would issue an order to abandon their landing and to take to the skies once more and attempt to locate and photograph the object. According to Rapkin, they had an unusual, stationary object around 16 miles north-northwest of the Minot facility. Furthermore, not only was the object stationary, it appeared to be on the ground. The plane changed course and headed towards the radar anomaly. However, from 10 miles away, both pilots could see a huge illuminated object ahead of them. One of the crew, Major James Parton, would recall how the object looked like a miniature sun placed on the ground below. The plane would eventually be directly overhead of the glowing craft, and would turn around, unintentionally using the object's circular edge as a guide to bring the craft back 180 degrees, and in the direction it had approached. As it did so, co-pilot, Captain Bradford Runyon, would compare the craft's exterior to molten steel due to the strange dull reddish glow it gave off. The apparent breach of landing facility.
Yeah, what we're describing is so similar to another nuclear facility incursion that happened in 1982 in Ukraine, the old Soviet Union. The base was called Bylokovich, and that's where the missiles were actually turned onto launch mode, which caused, well, one almighty panic, as you might imagine. And they described fairly much the same sun-like object, orange ball of light that was hovering over the base. So you can't help but pick up on the similarities between, that was 1982 and this was, 1968. So what's that, 14 years apart? Interesting. But carry on.
Facility Oscar 7. The crew would estimate the object was approximately 100 feet wide, by 200 feet long, and around 50 feet high. Also visible was a tube-like section on one side which would extend to what looked very similar to a car bumper. The back of this bumper was lit in a strange green-yellow glow which, in turn, lit the connecting tube. You can see some of the sketches of this part of the craft below. Witness sketch of the UFO sighting. Much like when the object had approached the B-52 during its descent, the communication systems again went dead as they passed directly over the top of the craft at an altitude of around 1,500 feet.
Interesting.
The B-52 would continue on its current course towards Minot Air Force Base, leaving the stationary
UFO
object
Delta
behind them.
detachment.
They would land at the base, almost 2 hours later than planned, at 4:40 a.m. Then, 9 minutes later at 4:49 a.m., the alarm system from Launch Facility Oscar 7, both the outer and inner zone systems, would sound an alert of a breach of the facility's boundaries. A security alert team received orders to investigate immediately. When they arrived shortly after, they would find the main gate unlocked. The side access gate was also open. The team would investigate the area surrounding the interior and exterior of the facility, but no intruders were found, human, alien, or otherwise. While the security team was conducting the search of Oscar 7, sightings continued to come in of the glowing object over the N7 facility. By 5:30 a.m., the object appeared to have diminished and disappeared out of sight. As we have noted in previous articles, it is an interesting observation that the object appeared to glow less and less brightly as opposed to vanishing with breakneck speed. As if it ran out of power. Shattered faith in procedure and disclosure. Almost immediately following the events, and certainly, in retrospect, and with the benefit of hindsight, it was obvious there was no desire on the militaries and their UFO investigatory arm Project Blue Book to seriously establish just what had happened in the hours before dawn on October 24, 1968. And even less so of having a genuine explanation enter the public domain. For example, while 6 of the ground staff were asked to complete the standard AF-117 form, Air Force Form 117 Sighting of Unidentified Phenomena questionnaire, there were no attempts to speak with any of the B-52 pilots. In fact, only the efforts of private UFO investigators have managed to bring their version of events to the wider public.
Yeah, you know that mention of Blue Book. Do you know, I don't think Blue Book would have dealt with this. I really don't. I think this would have gone somewhere far higher than Blue Book. This is a massive breach of security, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nah, I think cases like this, which are absolutely hardcore, and you know, a massive thorn in the side of national security, would have gone somewhere far higher.
Straight to government.
Yeah, it would have been in some hidden project files somewhere, you know.
ATIP.
And ATIP wasn't even around then.
I know.
Yeah, that was a microcosm of a project anyway. That was what they call a pet project, Paul. No, this would have gone somewhere, as high as it gets.
And then disappeared.
And it's only really thanks to the work of Robert Hastings, you know, pulling witnesses together that, you know, we kind of know about this case, so it could have easily slipped under the radar, couldn't it? But it's a hell of a case.
But these things only come to light when after some of these pilots and stuff retire.
Yeah, I think it was. After the person.
So when they come to, by the time they come to us, it's like 20 years or 30 years old.
Well, we didn't know anything about Roswell until 1978. So what's that? 31 years after the event. Yeah. Yeah, and that was only by chance.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever happened at Roswell, whether it was an alien craft or something more mundane, we know that there was a big cover up there. There's no question about that. Yeah, not even the skeptics can deny there was a major cover up there. But we'd have known nothing about it if it wasn't for Jesse Marcel and Stanton Friedman in 1978. So yeah, this is another one. And I mean, for every one that comes out like this, there must be another 10, 20, 30, 40, who knows, that haven't seen the light of day and maybe never will.
But they might do sometime in the future.
Speaking of which, you might want to mention that new series about that too.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's the second episode out now, Paul.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, I think it should have been. I think it was out yesterday. I did send you a message on Discord to keep an eye
I'll have
out
a look
for it.
after the show for us and see
Yeah,
what's around.
no problem.
What's it called now? It's called History's Strangest Mystery. Greatest Mysteries.
History's Greatest Mysteries, yeah, and simply Roswell.
And it's actually not all in the series. It's actually part of the series. It looks like it's going to be what, it's 2 or 3 parter.
Yeah, so I was just saying it's going to be in 3 parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we've had the first installment, and I think the second installment came out possibly yesterday. But
I'll tell you
interesting. I'll tell you where the fun's going to be. It's going to be in this Raimi memo. Apparently, they've taken that down now almost to the molecular level. But you know this thing they were harping on about in the first episode about
episode 5.
Episode 5, but one of 3, if you see what I mean. Yeah,
3 parts.
It's the first one on Roswell. Yeah, you're throwing me completely off now. Yeah, they were looking at Jesse Marcel's diary, and it was kind of coded. Well, it's a load of rubbish. Like they've just discovered it. No, that's nonsense. That's been in the public domain for years. I think Kevin Randall seen that years ago, 10, 20, 30 years ago. I don't know, but he's seen that a long time ago. And there's nothing in that. They're just padding it out. But apparently there is, like Kevin Randall said in his blog, there is something coming interesting towards the end.
Well, they were hinting that there was actually some secret code in it.
Yeah, there's not. It's nonsense. It's nonsense, honestly.
It had a page of references to books or music albums or something, didn't it? Or movie titles or something.
Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing about the incident in those diaries at all.
Yeah, but if it's a code,
that's just but it's got nothing to do with Roswell. Honestly, it's not. They're padding the thing out. They could have skipped that completely because it's not relevant.
They did prove it was his diary. It was the right timeline.
Oh yeah, we know that. Well, Jesse Marcel Jr. had that diary for years. And he didn't even think it was worth looking at. As far as the
well, we'll see what they see if they bring out any other interesting stuff in the next episodes. Never know, there might be something there.
The stuff where they're using that deep penetration radar thing is quite interesting as well. And then they're going to get to the Raimi memo. I think there's actually something they've discovered a bit new with that. That's the hint that I could kind of pick up on Kevin Randall's blog spot.
Yeah.
Then we better get on with this case before we lose the thread of it.
Well, it's on Roswell anyway. Roswell.
Yeah. It's my fault I brought it up.
Yeah. But I thought it was worth mentioning anyway. So it's going to mess up Charles's topic list anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Paul thinks it's funny.
Yeah, let's carry it on. I did click it, so what's going on?
This will be another alphabet letter.
No, it's not doing anything.
No, that will do the chat.
An image of the radar readings. Also worth noting, and again certainly indicative of the times with the backdrop of Vietnam and the Cold War, is the unquestioning nature of military officers and personnel. Despite their knowledge that the official story newsletter.
What happened there?
Subscribe to our free weekly newsletter to receive the latest articles directly in your inbox.
So, we got to the, we'll just read it again. Is it reading it?
Inbox. If you don't...
No.
Something went strange there. Highlight a couple of words.
Also worth noting, and again certainly indicative of the times with the backdrop of Vietnam and the Cold War, is the unquestioning nature of military officers and personnel. Despite their knowledge that the official story was not the real story, many, and understandably, would have faith that the military would make their findings public once complete. Many of these findings were not ever arrived at, much less declared to the public, at least officially. It is off the back of such blatant brushing off of these reports that many officers, with that faith now shattered, would turn to UFO investigators. One such witness was the previously mentioned Captain Bradford Runyon. And we know from the many reports of other such incidents spanning several decades, that is far from alone in his perspective. In 1998, 3 decades following the incident, Runyon would contact the Center for UFO Studies, UFOs, in Chicago, to not only report what he knew but to try and fill in the bits he didn't. A connection to the 1966 Minot nuclear incident? Although there is some discrepancy among UFO researchers and enthusiasts as to the authenticity of the incident, according to one report, a similar encounter took place at Minot Air Force Base 2 years previously in the fall of 1966. The account comes to the public arena via one-time United States military member turned whistleblower, Captain David Schindele. He would claim in his recent book It Never Happened, Volume 1, that the nuclear facilities at the base were essentially switched off. And, according to Schindele, it was the UFOs, or the intelligence behind them, that was responsible for it. This, of course, meant that such weapons could not be launched. Should such an alien force be hostile, we would essentially be defenseless to an attack. Newspaper clipping of the 1966 Minot Air Force Base incident. In truth, stories did appear in state and local newspapers of UFO sightings at the time. In particular, a front-page story in the December 6, 1966 edition of the Minot Daily News would claim that Minot Air Force Base appeared to be the focus of such sightings.
My name is David D.
Whether Schindele is merely opportunistic in using the newspaper article or not is perhaps open to debate. However, he would claim that following the article's appearance, the United States Air Force would order a ban on such coverage. While this does, to many people, sound a little outlandish, not to mention difficult to police, it is not the first claim of its kind. A realization of unworldly incidents?
Okay, Paul, do you want to pause
had
it
been
there?
speaking of his experiences.
Right, can we leave the rest of that article on hold, and let's have a look at, if I post another link, we'll have a listen to David Schindele talking. I don't know if that's possible, whether you can have 2 tabs open.
Well, it's possible. Whether it stuffs up is another thing.
Yeah, I get you.
Where's my dialogue up now?
It's made it complicated for you.
It's the same case.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, it could be like a sub thing, you know, you could put in there, but not actually.
I know, it's
I don't
okay.
know.
I'll solve it.
It's a small video. It's at
That doesn't matter,
1960.
as long as we can hear him. No, it would be later than that.
Who's it from? Tom Owens. I don't know that guy. Okay. Just play it.
Yeah, please.
My name is David D. Schindele, Captain, U.S. Air Force, retired. In 1966, I was involved in an incident while stationed at Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota.
Can't read that right.
I was told to never speak of the incident again, and also told that as far as I was concerned, it never happened. Because of that, I am before you today with a bit of trepidation. I must say a lot of trepidation, as I have never before shown my face in person on this matter. I was a Minuteman ICBM launch control officer, a first lieutenant, and a deputy missile combat crew commander in a two-man launch crew with my crew commander who held the rank of captain. He was about 15 years older than I. You can show that first slide, please, if you can. I held a top secret clearance, which was required for my job. It all began one morning when I was watching TV while having breakfast, and I heard the local news announcer mention that some residents in the town of Mulhall, North Dakota, had seen strange lights overnight, which they attributed to a UFO. This caught my attention because I was scheduled for duty that morning at a launch control facility called November Flight, about 3 miles west of Mulhall and about 37 miles north of Minot, North Dakota. I lived in the town of Minot at the time, and I drove to the air base to attend the morning pre-departure crew briefing at wing headquarters, where all 15 missile crews would normally meet each day prior to pulling alert duty at their respective launch control facilities. During that pre-departure crew briefing, it was mentioned that some missiles at November Flight had gone off alert, but there was no further information provided. I immediately connected this to the news item that I heard earlier in the morning regarding a possible UFO sighting near the town of Mulhall. When the briefing was over, several of the launch crews seated near me commented about the news item, which they had also heard that morning. And there was speculation about a possible connection with November Flight. My crew commander had also heard the news item. And we were both anxious and quite curious about what we might find as we drove out to the launch control facility. If you could display my second slide. On this second slide, I don't believe you members have a picture of this, but you can see it on the screen here. This is the November Launch Control Facility from an air view from Google Earth. If you could show that again. There is an access road to the facility from the north, coming down to the flight facility, where there's a main gate at the perimeter fence. The perimeter fence goes around the launch control facility building, top side, and there's a garage to the right of the main gate. The usual procedure upon arrival was to inspect the grounds and building, but this time my commander immediately went into the security section of the building to debrief security personnel and guards. The security center was the topmost north side of the building, near the main gate. I entered the facility from the back door at the end of the facility, and then encountered the site manager, a tech sergeant, who immediately took me into the day room and asked if I had been briefed on the previous night's events. I said I hadn't. We then proceeded toward the windows on the west side of the day room, where he described to me the large object with flashing lights that had been hovering just outside the fence that night. And he spread his arms out in front of him to indicate its size, the size of the object. Based on his description, I estimated the object may have been 80 to 100 feet wide, and approximately 100 feet from the building, maybe a bit closer. I immediately asked if it had been a helicopter, and he said that it just hovered with no noise being heard, quite unlike the usual noisy helicopters heard from within the building. I also asked what the flashing lights were like, but he could not answer. They were unlike any he had ever seen. They were not like the usual beacon lights on planes, but something like a pulsating glow. He then said the object, while hovering close to the ground, then glided to the right toward the north end of the building and out of sight. The object then came into view from the security section of the facility and hovered just behind and slightly to the right of the main gate, concealed partly by the large garage located within the fenced area to the right of the gate. As you can see there, the garage is labeled the second position of the object. This location put the object almost directly above the hardened launch control capsule, located 60 feet below ground. All our missiles, our 10 missiles, were located 4 to 14 miles away from the launch control facility. This capsule was located approximately underneath the garage. This was the launch crew quarters and the launch control center for all 10 interconnected nuclear-tipped missiles that were located away from the launch facility. Security personnel confirmed everything that the site manager had related to me. My commander and I then proceeded to take the elevator down to the launch control center, the capsule, to relieve the two-man officer crew below. After entering the capsule, our eyes were immediately transfixed on the launch control console, which showed that all missiles were off alert and unlaunchable. We had never seen such a thing before. The outgoing crew briefed us on the wild events that transpired overnight and indicated that the missiles malfunctioned at the time the object was hovering directly above the capsule and next to the main gate. We speculated on the possibility of an EMF pulse that might have created the situation. We had no doubt, however, that the 10 outlying nuclear-tipped missiles of November flight had been compromised, tampered with, and put out of commission by the object that had paid a visit. Normally, it's quite unusual to have even one missile down, except for maintenance. And Wing Headquarters was very proud of having more than 95% uptime for all 150 missiles of the wing. The following morning, after we had been relieved by the follow-on crew, we arrived topside, and I attempted to further query the flight security controller who had been on duty at the time of the situation. But he interrupted me, and he said that he had been instructed not to discuss the incident. That is when my commander then told me that he had received a call while I was on a scheduled rest break down below, and he was told that we were never to discuss the incident. When I asked where the directive came from, he said the OSI. He evidently received a call from the OSI. With no discussion allowed on the subject between him or me together or with anybody else, my crew commander and I were left in limbo and left on our own to conjure in our own minds how other simulation situations might unfold and be handled. Normally, the Air Force would train us on all procedures. We were in a simulator constantly training. This serious lack of follow-through by the Air Force was more than bewildering, and it served to keep this situation on our minds. Together, there were a dozen of us involved with this incident. My commander and I were not there during the encounter, but we had to deal with the ramifications of the incident, and I'll never forget the frightened emotion on the faces of topside airmen who were gathered with me when I was briefed by the site manager. Because those of us at the launch control facility, besides those of us at the launch control facility, there had to be many more people involved with this, including maintenance people who had to retarget and reline the missiles, also additional security personnel to guard and protect the missile launch facilities, and who knows how many others on base were concerned. Everyone had been silenced. The incident was never discussed, and I never heard a word of any other incident from people that I associated with. I never spoke a word about my incident for almost 40 years, and my wife never knew. After several years of searching the internet in hopes of finding someone who would give me a clue about my incident.
Excuse me, Mr. Schindele.
Yes.
I yield you additional 2 minutes, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I then found what was described by Captain Robert Salas, and I felt immediate, joyous freedom from my haunting memory. I then informed my wife. Since then, I have run across several missileers from my days at Minot who were there with me in the wing, and 2 of them have gone public with their own experiences. 2 others have described to me their unique experiences, but they have pleaded that I not divulge their names. They fear losing their Air Force pension, are losing their personal integrity and keeping a secret, or being ridiculed. I also know of 2 other officers involved in incidents, but they
Suppose he
will
lost his
not
pension then.
to their secret, probably
No.
for the same reasons. And then there's the late Captain Val Smith,
Has
of my
broken the
squadron,
NDA, surely.
who was mentioned in official documents released by FIA. He was interviewed by the late Dr. Alan Hynek of Blue Book fame, who wrote an article in the Saturday Evening Post, published on 17 December 1966, which described the incident that Smith was involved with on 25th August 1966. Hynek stated in the article, "This incident was not picked up by the press. It's typical of puzzling cases that I've studied during the 18 years that I've served as the Air Force's scientific consultant on the problem of UFOs."
It's okay.
Display the 3rd slide, please. Just prior to release of this Post article, the Minot Daily News got wind of it and then published on 6 December 1966 a front page news item with major bold headline that read, "Minot Launch Control Center saucer, cited as one indication of outer space visitors." The front page. I remembered this article. I thought, oh, maybe I can start talking. In 1966, when I was at Minot, the evidence was everywhere that something quite unique was happening. But I was embedded in a shell of silence. The Air Force knew the truth. The Air Force knew that I knew the truth. And that is the only reason they warned and instructed me that it never happened.
Okay, that's it. Okay, right, just to talk about the NDA there, at no point did he say he was made to sign an NDA. And even so, a non-disclosure agreement may only last maybe 25 years.
Yeah, he said they're worried about losing their pension. So makes you wonder what he lost after this.
Well, I don't think he did lose anything, Paul. If he had, it would have looked really bad. Well, in fact, it would have looked god awful.
Yeah, really good. Suppressed.
But Charles, your opinion? Did you find him sincere?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah,
I one of the most sincere person I've heard on here for a long time. I believed everything he was saying.
Yeah, I have to agree, and there was definitely some stress in his voice, don't you think?
Yeah.
That was his first time, speaking publicly about it. He didn't know what he was going for.
Those other 2 men that come forward, they had experiences. That sounds like alien visitations there, doesn't it?
No, they had experiences at the Air Force Base, Paul. UFO incursions at the Air Force Base. That's what he was talking about.
I thought he was mentioning after.
No, he managed to get into contact with them after. but they didn't want to come forward. No, we were not talking about abduction or any kind of experience like that now. They were talking about their own experiences at the Air Force Base. There was other UFO incidents. That was the point there. Now, Schindele, David Schindele, did go on to write a book. You can find it on Amazon. It's called It Never Happened. But I don't think we can condemn him for that alone.
Tell me, what was the UFO doing hanging over that base?
Disabling missiles.
Yeah, but he said that the missiles were 14 miles away from the base.
Yeah, but they disabled it obviously from the control room. Yeah.
So they weren't looking at the missiles then, was they?
Oh, I don't know if they were over the missiles as well.
Yeah.
But another thing here to remember now, for 10 missiles to go down like that it should underlined, God knows how many times, be impossible. Because they're all independently powered.
Yeah, they said 95% of them are all well to go, aren't they?
Yeah.
Take one down to maintenance at a time.
Plus, each one has its own backup system.
Yeah.
So for one to go down is highly unusual.
Unless it was a false reading. Imagine if it's like a... if there's an alien craft or Russian technology where it sort of can break the signal between the control room and the missiles that appear to go offline. You see?
Perhaps if the UFO was over the top of the base, perhaps they were more interested in the way that they were coding for these missiles, so they could decode them. I don't know.
It looks like some things because in all these incidents, there's absolutely no damage at all done to the systems, none at all. They've just been basically turned off.
Yeah,
it's not like they've barbecued or anything like that.
Yeah,
I think we touched on this one on UFOs and Nukes episode we did a year ago now.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah, it's quite a long time ago. We've been doing this quite a while now, haven't we?
Yep.
I wasn't on here then.
No, you weren't.
No.
In fact, we're going to do a best of on Christmas, and it never happened. I'm not too sure why. The best of Robert series, Robert Talk series.
I think I put that up there high up as the number one.
This is a really good case. Well, both of them are the 68 case, and now this one, the 66 case. They're really good cases, but I think there's been an awful lot more of these than we know about. Yeah, I wonder how many.
Threatening pilots like hell, don't they?
Yeah,
to keep them quiet.
Yeah, you don't hear much of this on TV, let alone other UFO channels, right? So we're probably the only ones that's really talking about this stuff.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, I haven't heard anything talking about UFOs and nukes for a long time.
And the fact that he hadn't told his wife.
Maybe it's old news in a lot of ways. But
now he's retired, isn't it? Now he's pensioned.
Well, 2010, it's before my channel started, so...
Yeah.
So,
of course, when he spoke out in 2010, he didn't really know what was going to happen to him, but obviously nothing has happened. If anything did happen to him, of course, it would have looked totally suspicious, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you mean like a suicidal car accident?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the best thing you can do is actually speak out publicly.
To protect yourself.
Exactly, yeah. It gives you a kind of a layer of protection then.
Yeah. Good case that was.
Yeah, well, it's ongoing. So we need to finish off with this article. We're not even halfway through it.
I've just been given some food, so I'll just carry on.
Yeah, okay.
And move my mic away so you don't hear me munching.
Experiences in 2010 before he finally released the aforementioned book. He would claim that orders to remain silent, or to never speak of one incident or another were relatively commonplace for those who spent any considerable time at Minot Air Force Base. Captain David Schindele. Many personnel would experience unworldly incidents while stationed there, in particular, while on duty at the surrounding facilities. In many ways, it is a knock-on effect of one whistleblower coming forward, not necessarily from the same Air Force base, that has led to several others doing so. Schindele explains that we never realized at the time that others among us were also experiencing incidents. But now, the truth is becoming known. Following increasingly more revelations for former servicemen, combined with the declassification of military and government files, a momentum for the truth among such people is seemingly gathering pace, although we should note that many ex-servicemen refuse to speak of such incidents. Does this validate Schindele's claims that something regularly occurred at the North Dakota military base? Or does it have the opposite effect? We, like many other UFO researchers, have examined previously the apparent connection between nuclear facilities and places that store nuclear weaponry and UFO activity, including that of Schindele and an extremely similar incident at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Even the famous Rendlesham incident, at least according to some, has the storage of nuclear weapons at its heart. The Gwinner incident, the Randy Rotenberger case. Around 3 months previously, on the morning of September 13, 1966, at around 7:30 a.m. in the town of Gwinner, North Dakota, schoolboy Randy Rotenberger was stood outside his family home waiting for the school bus to arrive. As he stood there, however, instead of the bus arriving, some flashing lights appeared.
Yeah,
a depiction of a UFO in a cloudy sky. As the young boy stared in disbelief at the lights, he could clearly see that they were part of a solid, nuts and bolts craft. He would recall to the press in the days following the incident that it looked like two bowls put together. He would continue that there were 3 pegs on the underside of the craft, and what appeared to be an antennae on the top. The exterior was a shining silver color with red and green lights flashing. After bringing his thoughts back together, Randy ran back inside the home, calling out to his mother as he did so. She would later recall that, while she was finishing the phone call she was making when her son burst back into the house, she could hear a whirring sound coming from outside. At the same time, Randy was calling that the UFO was taking off. His mother hadn't arrived in time to see the strange craft for herself. The following day, however, Randy and 2 of his friends would discover apparent proof of its landing. Twists, rejections, and more twists. The trio had made their way to where Randy had seen the object. Amazingly, and much to their disbelief, they discovered some burnt marks on the ground. They were around a foot across and 5 inches deep. The positioning was very much in a triangular formation. It didn't take Randy long to realize that these markings were likely the pegs he had witnessed on the underside of the craft the previous morning. A depiction of a UFO in a cloudy sky. They would show their findings to Randy's parents. They, in turn, would contact Cliff Melroe, who was the president of the Melroe Manufacturing Company. He would inspect the indentions and claim that after having spent his life around such heavy-duty equipment, it was obvious whatever made the holes was an extremely heavy piece of equipment. And most definitely not the result of some kind of hoax. However, General Homer Goebel from the Air National Guard in nearby Fargo would claim that the 3 holes were the result of ball lightning. Following this, the case would take another strange twist. The U.S. Air Force would voice their own opinion on the matter. One that steadfastly disagreed with Goebel's assessment. Major Hames Aikman would state in a letter to NICAP that it was clear the depressions were compacted solidly in the ground. They would reject the ball lightning theory because of this and ultimately treat the incident as unidentified. A long, rich history of UFO sightings and encounters. There have been many such sightings in and around Minot Air Force Base, and North Dakota in general. Although there is very little details, one of the first sightings on November 3, 1958 has very similar details to the encounter that would unfold 10 years later. On that particular afternoon, at a little after 2 p.m., Sergeant William Butler would witness a bright green object in the shape of a dime coin. Just behind this green object was a silver round craft, seemingly following. Then, without any warning, the green object exploded. The silver craft would make its way from the location at high speed. Just under a year earlier at 4 a.m. on November 30, 1957, although there was no visual sighting, radar operators at Minot Air Force Base would spot a blip on the radar screens. It would climb from 5,000 feet to 25,000 feet in only 20 seconds before it disappeared. However, we will look first at an encounter that occurred in the neighboring state of South Dakota.
You're making a lot of noise.
The Cactus Flat Incident, June 1976. Although the following incident occurred at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota, its relative close proximity to the Minot Air Force Base and the very similar details make it appropriate to include here. At a little after 1 a.m. on the June 30, 1976, at a ballistic missile launch facility under the ownership and responsibility of the Ellsworth Base, a missile combat crew would report alarms suggesting a compromising of the facility's security. A two-man security unit would make their way to the location. When they were around a quarter of a mile from the facility, they could clearly see a fiery orange-red object directly overhead of their target. A depiction of the Cactus Flat incident. One of the men would exit the vehicle and follow it on foot. They would provide cover for the driver as they approached the facility from the access road. As they were almost at the perimeter, they could clearly see a classic gray alien standing near the fence. In the hand of the creature was a strange rod-like device. Interestingly, this is a bizarre detail that surfaces often in gray alien sightings. The soldier behind the vehicle raised his rifle and shouted a warning to the creature. In response, the gray alien raised its hand and pointed the rod-like device at him. The next thing he knew, he was lying on the ground after being hit by some type of energy discharge. Immediately following this, the creature and the glowing craft disappeared into the night sky. Perhaps of more concern, though, was the discovery that the nuclear warhead at the facility in question was no longer operational due to purposeful alterations. Even more intriguing were the sightings from the public of UFO flyovers. These would seemingly coincide with similar sightings over Minot Air Force Base.
That's saying that the warhead was at the base, wasn't it?
Sorry, Charles.
I said that they were just saying there that the discovery of the nuclear warhead that was at the base. So why did they say that they were 40 miles away? The rockets.
I don't know, but they generally have one particular Air Force base may have several flights, usually each containing 10 missiles, which are obviously for tactical reasons spread over quite a large area. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if that gets a retaliatory strike, then you lose them all, don't you? If you happen to have
in the forest or somewhere.
Well, are you generally in the desert, aren't they? Yeah, so I'm not really sure, because I popped off while that was reading out. But this case is more speculative, and it goes really a step further with a grey alien. I don't want to diss it, because
they did say that the gate was open, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, he had one thing. I mean, how long was that soldier out for? He didn't. He doesn't know how long he was out for, really, does he? He could have been out for a few seconds or a few minutes, 10 minutes, quarter hour.
Yeah, that's it. There's no way to tell. It's quite disturbing when you have missing time like that.
Yeah.
The problem with the I have is the antenna on the top. As soon as I heard that, it sounded like a remote controlled drone of some kind. On that story of the kids seeing something.
We don't know if it was an antenna as we understand it. But that does sound suspicious because there's just not many UFO sightings where people have, suggested there was some kind of antenna. Although with the Tic Tac, they did say there was appendages, although they weren't described as antenna. So, I don't know.
Which again could be meaning that it's a drone and that's radio antennas, right? So again, the Nimitz one is way messy pickle, a can of worms, isn't it? Still,
cheers.
Because there's not enough information on it really, and it sort of got people interested, but then it sort of lost its way, unfortunately.
Because this is coming from a kid, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was coming from a kid that saw the landing thing.
Yeah.
Of course, he could have been mistaken. Well, who knows? He might be after attention seeking as well. Yeah. It's not like it's not the same as two military or adults seeing a UFO land, is it? Compared to a kid.
No.
Anyway, so where do you want to go from here?
We're just going to do... Yeah, we're going on to the next case, Paul. It's another case now in 1964.
Okay. There was more on this article, though, I think.
Exactly.
Well, you want me to carry on with it?
Of course.
It's the same subject.
Yeah.
That's all right. Good.
Private plane and military radar spot same object, April 1964. At just before 9 p.m. on the evening of April 28, 1964, a civilian pilot traveling approximately 50 miles to the south of Minot Air Force Base would witness a strange object. It was moving across the sky around 4,000 feet below his altitude of 7,000 feet. At the same time, ground radar at the air base would also pick up an anomaly. And they would notice that it was following the private plane. This pursuit would continue for around 25 miles before the strange craft seemingly disappeared into thin air. Whether there is a connection or not, and the distance is certainly considerable, this particular sighting occurred only days before the landing case on Socorro, New Mexico, otherwise known as the Zamora incident. The summer of 1967 incidents. Several incidents and sightings occurred in and around the Minot Air Force Base region in the summer of 1967.
I don't like that case.
On the evening of July 25, 1967, for example, at around 10:30 p.m. a family would witness a luminous object moving erratically over their farm in the town of Garrison. The object was moving both horizontally and vertically. According to the witnesses, at one stage the glowing craft almost reached the ground. This would make the family think it was about to crash. Interestingly, the family would note that when the object moved, relatively slowly, it would glow a blue-white color. However, when it moved faster, the color would change to a bright red. This is a seemingly trivial detail that comes up a lot on UFO sighting reports. So much so, that it would appear there is a genuine correlation between speed and the color of these strange crafts. A depiction of a UFO in outer space. Interestingly, an object of an almost identical description was reported near one of the missile facilities of Minot Air Force Base in late October 1966. Just over a week later, at around 11:30 p.m. on the evening of August 3rd in the town of Sawyer, another sighting occurred. This time, two men would report a light bulb-type object glowing white and moving across the sky before disappearing behind hills at the roadside. Then, the object would rise once more into the sky to an altitude of 100 feet, before moving to a wheat field where it hovered before landing. As the two men watched, the light of the craft suddenly went out for several moments. When it came back on, the craft was around 50 feet from the ground before speeding away. The October 1967 sightings, 2 incidents within 30 minutes. Beginning at 3 a.m. in the early hours of October 27, 1967 in the Parshall region of North Dakota, a waitress would witness a large, round, revolving object while driving home. The exterior of the craft also featured alternating triangular areas of coloration. It was moving through the air relatively close to the ground. It would keep pace with her car while maintaining a distance equivalent to 2 blocks. Suddenly, as she continued to watch the strange craft, several white streaks of light came from its underside and toward the ground. As soon as this happened, a strange feeling hit her car. As though she had 4 flat tires. Or as if the road had suddenly turned to loose rocks underneath her.
Oz effect where it goes
A
into
depiction
jelly.
of a UFO in a cloudy sky. Although she didn't know it at the time, a police officer would corroborate the sighting. He would report a low-altitude, round object that appeared like an aerial welding torch. In fact, so bright was this object that it would illuminate the ground below as it moved. It would change color from blue to a bright green-white. Then, it would vanish directly upward in a matter of seconds.
That's a good sign for
Only
UFO.
30 minutes later in Max, a milk truck driver beginning his rounds would witness a spinning red object. Even more concerning for the witness, the object very much appeared to be actively following his truck. It would eventually catch up and proceed to hover over the top of his truck. After several moments it would move towards a field that ran along the side of the road. It would accelerate in a moment, changing color to a bright blue as it disappeared. Visual and radar confirmed sightings of the 70s. Another sighting would take place a little over 8 years later on the morning of November 10, 1975, just after 10 a.m. It would appear in a NORAD region senior director's log. And once more, it would play out over the skies of Minot Air Force Base. The object's description was of a bright star-like object coming out of the west and moving to the east. Witnesses would estimate the object to be the size of a small car. Around an hour after the object was first seen at around 11:20 a.m., it would pass over the radar station. Witness sketch of the 1978 Dakota UFO sighting. Despite the altitude of around 1,000 to 2,000 feet, none of the witnesses would report hearing any sounds. Certainly not what people would normally associate with flight. The object would move away into the distance without incident and vanish from sight. The incident was another event that had both visual and radar confirmation. Almost exactly 3 years later, on the evening of November 2, 1978, a large red light circled with blue lights was witnessed over Watford City in North Dakota. Barb Onsrud, along with her son, Kent, would witness the object fly over their family home. What was particularly strange about the sightings was the craft. After descending rapidly from above to a height of only 60 feet, it moved at a, relatively, slowly 25 miles per hour. The object would disappear into the night sky without a sound. Despite making a report, the incident remains unexplained. It is, though, in great sympathy with many of the other sightings of the area. The bizarre encounter of Antonio McCoy, April 1998. Perhaps one of the most intriguing and more contemporary sightings is that of 39-year-old Antonio McCoy from Minot. On the April 13, 1998, McCoy would awake suddenly inside a round, whitish-blue room. He was lying on something, although he wasn't sure what it was. Before he could contemplate what the surface might be under his back, he noticed a strange figure in a shining blue futuristic suit approaching him. In the creature's hand was a device that looked like a tiny tuning fork. The creature, now next to McCoy, placed the device on his torso. McCoy would attempt to fight back against the strange device. However, he could feel something like an invisible force holding him down. A depiction of a UFO with military jets in pursuit. The next thing he knew, he was back inside his normal environment. he would suffer with severe headaches for a considerable amount of time following the incidents. Perhaps even stranger was the strange black helicopters that suddenly appeared over the neighborhood in the days after his encounter. Whether there is a connection between these ominous and mysterious helicopters and the equally ominous encounter of Antonio McCoy is perhaps open to debate. However, as we have examined previously, their appearances continue across the United States and further afield, still today. The recently revealed 1972 incident. In early 2017, a video appeared online featuring a missile security guard who claimed to have witnessed a huge, blinding UFO in the summer of 1972 near Minot Air Force Base. He would recall how he and another guard, who he was on duty with, witnessed the bright object before also seeing jets scrambled from Minot Air Force Base. Furthermore, the base itself went on instant full alert. Just when the two security guards thought events had settled down, they would witness a formation of the bright objects appear overhead. They would appear to fly over the launch facilities. Furthermore, they would take a particular interest in this part of the military base. Of even more concern, the security guard would claim that the United States Air Force hypnotized him in an attempt to stop him from speaking of the incident. Furthermore, he would sign secrecy documents stating his agreement to not speak of the events. Even stranger, although no less concerning, are the claims that personnel at the base regularly took part in UFO retrieval operations. This, if true, might explain just why this particular military facility has such a rich history with UFO activity. We will examine this a little further in a moment. Check out the videos below. A two-part interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cases are getting a little more speculative now, aren't they? The 68 case and the 66 cases, I think, are really, really good. And we're kind of lacking witness testimony for the others, and they're getting a little bit more outlandish. We've got aliens on the scene, and we've got abductions. Now, another thing that may be worth mentioning, the Dakota as well. The Minot's in North Dakota, isn't it? There's an awful lot of cattle mutilations taken place there since the 60s, or the late 60s anyway. And of course, there's that guy mentioned, the black helicopters. Yeah, they seem to be seen quite regularly in that part of the world. But of course, there's military installations there, so it's not that much of a surprise, and you don't know what kind of experimental tech they're flying around out in the desert there. So that's going to be responsible for an awful lot of UFO sightings as well. But certainly 68 and 66, they were good cases. And if you're just joining us now, you might want to look back at the beginning of this episode, yeah. But we haven't finished. Paul, we haven't finished.
You want to do FMI on that so far, or what?
Well, yeah, okay. I'm going to go a full 5 on the first two cases, the nuclear incursions in 68 and 66.
Yep, I agree.
As for we haven't completed the others so far, but they, as I said, they're getting a bit more speculative with fewer witnesses.
2 and 3, I'd say.
Down the middle with them.
Yeah.
For me.
Although
the only one that corresponded really was when that soldier said that aerial thing was pointed at him and it put him out.
Yeah.
And that guy said this as well, didn't he?
But the only problem with this case, though, is only still one witness. It's only one witness that come forward. So he didn't have the other two guys back him up, right? So, to me, saying 5 is a wee bit too high at this stage, unless the other ones come forward to back up his claim.
Yes, so well, they have come forward. They've left testimony, Paul, but they're just not giving their names. I think Robert Hastings has vetted them out as being where they should have been at that time. They're just holding back on the names, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
Well, I don't reckon he was telling lies.
No, I don't think he was either.
Yeah. What's he got to gain from it? Is the question.
Exactly,
if he was, you know.
Yeah, so I can't say that's a single witness case. If other people have backed up what he's saying, just because they won't come forward and speak publicly themselves.
If he wanted to make money, he'd have come forward a long time ago, wouldn't he?
Well, you would have gone on third phase of the moon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. So, next link, is it? Let me have a look.
Paul, do you want to finish off first, please, before we move on to the next one?
Oh, you want to do this bit down here?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going through the alphabet here.
A hive of recovered alien technology hidden in plain sight. The events of October 1968 are undoubtedly, barring any events that remain untold, the most fascinating of all the UFO encounters to take place in the skies over Minot Air Force Base. Just what was the reason for those glowing saucer-shaped crafts to appear and maintain a presence over the military facility for several hours? Perhaps of even more interest, what was the purpose of the landing that the B-52 witnessed? And was this connected to the alleged disarming of nuclear weapons? And what should we make of the claims of the security guard above? That regular UFO retrieval missions have taken place out of the grounds of Minot Air Force Base? Might the facility still house such recovered alien technology today? Might this explain the regular and persistent UFO activity in North Dakota? And, with the recovered alien technology aspect in mind, how many of the recent sightings have been extraterrestrial visitors? And how many might be black-budget projects carried out by shadowy U.S. government departments? We know that such sightings continue today in the region. Might it be that Minot Air Force Base deserves more attention than it perhaps currently receives from most UFO researchers? Might it be that one of the locations to house alien technology, recovered from crashes, or otherwise, has long been hidden in plain sight? With the focus of many looking at bases further south and to the west? Check out the short video below. It is part of an ABC 2-hour special Peter Jennings reporting, UFOs, Seeing is Believing from February 2005. It looks at the UFO and alien question as a whole. And also features almost 5 minutes dedicated to the 1968 incident above.
5 minutes, wow. That's it?
Yeah, that is it.
So what's following this one?
Okay.
One long story with a bit of luck.
No, look, to list that one, Charles, yeah?
Don't worry, I'll sort it, don't worry. I'll sort it, Rob.
All you have to put is UFO incursions over Minot Air Force Base. It's all one listing. All one listing. That's easy street, that one.
I'll sort it.
Yeah, we're heading to France.
Now, we have a UFO landing with trace evidence, I believe.
Sure, we've hit this one before. Anyway. Whereabouts is the location? France, doesn't say. Trans-en-Provence, is it? I suppose it's not on the map anymore, is it?
Trans-en-Provence.
Yes, of course, it's on the map.
No, a lot of places get renamed, don't they? Back from older days. Let's come up with something. So it's very rocky. And that photograph there, rivers. Is that the right place? Yeah, it looks like it. Is that France?
Yeah, Trans-en-Provence, yep. And Cannes.
It looks like French. It looks like French names.
Yeah, it's not far off the east coast there, is it?
There you go. It's right on the corner of that rocky zone there near the sea, eh? Look at that. What's these lines here? These lines here, I'm not too sure. Yeah, it's got to be very hot there too, isn't it? That location.
It's not hot, it's warm.
Mediterranean.
It's Canary side, isn't it, of France?
Mm.
Oh, that way.
Yeah, but the Canaries is way down past the Med.
I know it's further on, but it's that way.
Yeah.
Not another YouTube video. We're going to get hit with copyright claims if that's the case.
Paul, I never gave you that.
Mitchell.
I haven't got a clue what you're doing today, pal. I don't have a clue.
That's going back to the other one.
Yeah, that's the only one I had on the screen. As soon as I paste that one, another one pops up. No?
What's going on here?
The both links are the same. You blaming me, man.
Yeah, this happened last week, didn't it? When it was.
Don't blame this.
No,
don't blame the technology. Blame the user.
Those two links are the same.
What did I do last week? I refreshed the page and it worked, didn't it? Let's try again now.
Well, those two links are the same.
I know you just like blaming me for everything. What's that Paul doing again?
You like to blame me. You like to blame me for everything.
Yeah,
UFO landing.
That's it.
What do you mean blame you, Charles? I said it's your mic issue. That was you, though. That was.
Yeah, well, I'm on about other things as well, so it's alright. Carry on.
I blame people when it's true, you know. I don't blame them for no reason. Okay, so off from the top, I guess.
Well, Paul never does go wrong.
That's not going to read properly, probably. Let's see. Read aloud.
N-ink.
Any. No, what's going on?
An incident in January 1981 had only a single witness, but it was one that left behind apparent physical evidence of its visit. And what's more, this evidence was examined and photographed by both the witness, local police, and investigators within days of the landing. That isn't to say the investigation isn't without controversy, though. Many claims of flawed handling of the evidence and the scene would be leveled by secondary investigators, both skeptics and believers alike, over the years that would follow. The Trans-en-Provence UFO left behind evidence of its visit. The witness himself appears credible enough, however, with no apparent desire or motivation for elaboration or outright manufacturing of the incident. Furthermore, the identity of the witness was officially a mystery for many years following the incident. This is obviously not the actions of a person looking to cash in on their experience. Was the Trans-en-Provence incident the landing of an intelligence-driven craft from another world? Or might it have been an experiment? A device like two saucers, one on top of the other. The witness to the Trans-en-Provence landing was long reported to be Renato Collini.
All stuffed up.
This was mainly due to the privacy laws in France. However, we know today that, in reality, the witness is Renato Nicolai. At a little after 5 p.m. on January 8, 1981, Nicolai was at his home building a concrete shelter for an outside water pump. His home overlooked the land below it as it was built on a raised level. As he noticed how cold it was becoming, he heard a sort of faint whistling. He turned his attention towards the sound, and in front of him was a device in the air at the treetop height at the very edge of the land of his property.
Rockets, didn't it?
He would distinctly remember the device was not spinning. And furthermore, it was coming lower to the ground. He moved closer to a stone cabin on his property, so he could watch the object land. As it moved, there was no flames or clear sign of propulsion or an engine. Almost as soon as it touched down on the ground it rose again, the whistling sound still audible. It would take off with speed towards the woodland nearby. It had the shape of two saucers, one on top of the other, and was a lead color. The higher it went, Nikolai could see 4 openings on the underside, although no lights or flames were visible from inside. Still a short distance away from where the craft landed, he would wait for a moment until he was happy it had gone. Then he would walk toward the landing site. Trans-en-Provence sketch. Markings of a circle and abrasions. Upon arriving at the location, Nikolai could clearly see a circle around 2 meters across. Within this circle were abrasions or scorch marks. Following his reporting of the incident, further reports would reveal more intricate details of the area. One of those investigating groups was Jeppen, who would investigate such mysterious sightings. They would find mechanical pressure most likely the cause of the impression left at the site. Very likely, the craft was of a weight of between 4 to 5 tons. Furthermore, indications were that the underside of the craft, at least, was of a temperature of between 300 to 600 degrees Celsius, between 500 and over 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. Due to the relatively close location of the Injures military base, Nikolai would ponder if the device was some kind of secret military reconnaissance craft. And while UFO enthusiasts had an obvious interest in the case, many theories, bizarrely enough, would revolve around natural phenomena. This, despite the report of a very physical and real nuts and bolts machine. As well as Jeppen's own suggestion that a 4 or 5 ton machine had made the impression on the land.
Hey, Air 51,
in
how's it
total,
going?
from him first noticing the strange whistling sound to the object taking off from the ground and disappearing out of sight, the incident would last no longer than a minute. However, the investigations would all agree it was the alertness of the witness and his ability to take in as much as possible that made such a short and otherwise mundane sighting so rich with detail and subsequent information. Alien intelligence or military advancements? Given the size of the craft, while it isn't impossible by any stretch of the imagination for a single pilot to fit inside, it is perhaps more likely that the craft was indeed some kind of drone or scouting device. If this is the case, then, would it be one of military origin, or from further afield? While it apparently had the ability of propulsion, possibly based on electromagnetic energy, given the immense rise in heat upon its takeoff, that is of an advanced nature, the object didn't exhibit any breathtaking speeds or movements. With this in mind, then, is it more likely that the brief landing is one of a clandestine military craft? Either French, or from one of the numerous American bases in France and other parts of Europe? Might it even be a secret joint international type project? Perhaps the design and propulsion is indeed based on recovered extraterrestrial technology? This itself would be reason enough to discredit or gloss over the incident. Or might the downplaying of evidence be another example of controlling what little information had already ventured into the public arena? Whether there is a connection or not, there are several similar sightings in France on record around the same time. And, possibly of more interest, an almost identical sighting in the immediate days following the Trans-en-Provence sighting, on the other side of the world, no less. From left to right, Dr. Jacques Vallée, Dr. Michel Baunias, Renato Nicolai.
Do you want to pause it there, Paul?
Similar silent hovering sightings of the early 80s.
Doing something crazy. Yeah. That's
On
weird.
January 15th, 1981, at around 1 p.m. in Canberra, Australia,
Something's taken
6
over
people...
my mouse here. Men in Black again. So, sorry about that. Yeah, you should see the mouse went shooting down there. It was like it was going away from the button. It's almost like someone's remote controlling me sometimes, you know? It's a bit hard to know. You never know what gets on your system nowadays, do you?
No. Or who?
Yeah. Hackers.
Or what?
Hmm.
Yeah, so Vallée was a big fan of this case. He believed it to be genuine. interesting though, isn't it? 4 or 5 tons of weight on the ground. Whatever it was a bit on the hot side as well, to for that scorching. So I don't know what kind of propulsion system would give off that kind of
Well,
heat.
if you ever seen a Bunsen burner, they get quite hot.
In the middle of what I'm saying, Paul. Let me finish first, then you talk, yeah? So there was no visible flame. So I don't know. I don't really know what that was. It couldn't have been a drone, could it? You wouldn't have a drone weighing 4 or 5 tons.
Well, I was just going to explain.
Yeah, but why don't you just go on then? You explain. Let's hear your side.
Well, you don't always see flame. Have you ever seen Bunsen burner in sites? You don't see the flame. You could burn your hand quite easily. You get the blue, almost clear flame, right? You might be able to think back to school days, but maybe they get very hot too. I'm pretty sure it reached that temperature. I would have to look it up. Maybe it's that sort of colour flame, so it would make the hissing sound, right? Like the V2s of World War II, they made that brrr sound, the classic sound, and it had a really clear flame out the back on those as well, the rockets.
Yeah, but these were silent.
Yeah.
Not this craft though. This one of the tripods. It said it made a hissing sound, right?
A slight whistling sound. Slight whistling sound. The V2s, you can hear them from miles away, Paul.
Yeah, of course you can. But what I'm saying though is they may have perfected it so it's silent, but still, it could be a hot, clear flame that you're not seeing. So, but we ain't seen it under his eyes. We don't know what he saw, and we got no video or anything that we can actually see what he may have seen. That would help a lot, It's not like everybody walks around with GoPros on their head, which if they did, maybe we could solve this quite easily, a lot better, and get rid of those smartphone cameras, which is crap. GoPro is way better. But carry on.
No channel then. Did it all be solved?
All solved, you reckon? Don't know. There'd always be debates about it, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think there's always going to be questions, right? Even if we do get disclosure, aliens are here, there's going to be even more questions. What they know? Can we go in their craft to the edge of the universe, see what it's like, and study other planets?
And everybody be claiming they see them when they don't.
I think there's probably lots of billions of different questions about what the universe is and what life is all about, and what reality is. You got people also on fraud channels talking about it being a matrix again, in hologram universe, whatever it is, holographic universe nonsense, and that we're actually a virtual simulation and all this nonsense. I don't know, but also, isn't it one of the famous people believes in that? Is it Elon Musk believes we're actually a computer simulation, or some nonsense like that? I don't think we are. I think we have a purpose, but I'm not sure what the purpose is. Maybe we're just experiments and they just come and check on us to see how we're progressing and then fly off again. Who knows? It's a real big mystery. Like I said, it's going to be more questions than answers. So I don't think there's ever going to be no UFO chat at all, even if they do get disclosure.
Even if we had disclosure, that would be just the beginning of the arguments.
Yeah. And why did it take so long to get disclosure, and why was it covered up? And there'd be forever ongoing questions.
I don't know why people assume the government knows everything about this. I don't think they know much more than us.
Yeah, it's possible. There might be a collected few that do know more, of course, and
more isn't all.
No, No. But
could some of this heat?
Yeah, maybe it's too scary for us to know, though. You know.
Yeah, possibly it is. What are you going to say, Charles?
I was going to say, could some of this heat be generated from the speed that they're going? You know, like a bullet goes and then it gets hot on the end.
Not if it's land.
I think that they were creating friction, we'd get a sonic boom. I think somehow they're displacing the air around them.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean to say they're not going to heat up, though, is it?
No.
So when they land, it could just burn.
Yeah, it could be a side effect of whatever propulsion system they're using.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the first time.
Oh, as I know, fire a bullet in the air, you're going to hear it go crack in the air some way away.
Yeah, but we don't hear these things, do we?
No.
There's no friction.
Well, I didn't hear that one out here when that shifted.
Mind you, if it was hot, wouldn't it glow? You know, normally when you heat up metal, it goes, you know, like molten lava color, right?
It might not be the surface of the craft that's actually hot.
Well, what is it then?
There's more questions than answers.
I don't know. It's got to fit in with science here, though.
No, but Paul, you want it to fit in with our current understanding of science.
Yeah, got the understanding.
Do not fit in with our current understanding of science, because otherwise we'd be able to do what they do, and we simply can't do that. I mean, do you honestly think that 21st century science is going to be the same in the 25th century, long after we're dead? Absolutely not. Of course it isn't. And then if you look then to 31st century science, it's not going to be the same again as it was in the 25th century. Maybe we'll have discovered ways to move like these things do.
The environment would be better off then as well.
I think at least we do have some clues. I mean, that thing, never, ever, ever a sonic boom. I think that gives us a clue. But obviously displacing the air around them.
Yeah.
There's no friction, there's no turbulence. I mean, people say anti-gravity. That's a bit of nonsense, really, because gravity is only 1g when you think about it. You know, they're doing something else. Something we don't understand how to do.
Changing their buoyancy in atmosphere, I think you'll find, probably, and water, probably. Because what you get out of the atmosphere, right, you don't really need anti-gravity, right? You just need a propulsion system. So if you make yourself less heavy or more buoyant, and the air just literally will lift you up without having to use a lot of energy on engines, you know, like a balloon will lift you up. Although if you put an engine on it and you're really buoyant, if you put a very fast jet engine on a mighty balloon, could you imagine how fast that would go? So I think that's where you just got to think of how UFOs are. I've talked about Tesla and reducing the amount of radiant energy absorption, reducing the mass of the craft, and then it can go up the stream of gravity quite easily. So yeah, and to hover, all they need to do is just change the variation in the field, so it becomes more heavy again, and it sort of then can hover in place, you know. I think it's going to be quite simple science, really, but it's just a matter of getting the right metamaterials to be able to charge it with high voltage, and also, obviously, the power supply, which, again, makes you wonder what they're using for that. So it had to be some sort of form of nuclear or fusion reaction, I guess.
Yeah, but it's the speed that they go as well, and the way that they just stop dead.
Oh, hold on a second, Paul. Paul, hold on a second. You think they're using nuclear fusion? You think they're using nuclear reactors to power their ships?
No, fusion.
No chance. I think it's something far more advanced than that. Good God, we're nearly at that stage. We are at that stage. We could probably design an aircraft now that uses nuclear fusion. Yeah, it's just not damn safe, is it?
No, not. You know, you're talking about fission, fusion. If you can scale it right down, all you do is you're creating energy off the sun, and then converting it into high voltage, which then drives what you need to do. You know, plasma ion engines or whatever. So if you got something that's buoyant, right, and you put a plasma ion engine on it, that's going to shoot pretty damn fast, hypersonic speeds.
I just get the feeling it's more complicated than that, even, you know.
I don't know. I think it's always like the Occam's razor. And once you understand...
Occam's razor. Occam's razor, okay.
Yeah. If you choose the simplest solution, normally it's the way to go. I think people overcomplex things, myself. It's just that we don't understand. We got the science wrong, and so we're going down the wrong path. And if we correct that path, which Tesla, I believe, was on the right track. You know, Bruce Maccabee's big on Tesla as well, but even he said he's a nuts and bolts guy. He doesn't believe in this magic. You know, you're talking about magic, how the air heats up around the craft. That's magic because it's not. It doesn't really fit in with. You're saying it's not currently our science, but it's called magic, right?
Yeah, but can you imagine going back now to the 15th century? If they seen some of our technology, they would interpret that to be a magic trick, couldn't they? And that's just 600 years ago. I mean, I didn't need to go that far back, to be honest, did I?
Well, they would with your lighter.
Well, yeah. They may have worked out it goes quick, but they wouldn't really know how it worked.
Yeah, I don't think it's much quieter than the other lighter. I've heard it clicking a few times, but anyway.
I wasn't being nasty or anything. I was just.
Oh, I know.
You need to get an alien head with a candle on top. Where is your alien head? I can't see it in the background there. You need to change your walls with new posters every month.
This is the wall directly behind me.
Yeah,
so
that should be.
It's not there. It's off to my left and in front of me.
Yeah.
Get one of them goof on curtains.
Honestly,
changing colours.
Yeah, but then he would have to install like minicam on his thing, and that would probably complicate it.
Sure, Robert could make a better job.
Yeah.
I don't know. He could just have a bookshelf with rotating globes on and alien heads, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to have to reposition the whole house, aren't
I? You can always change your pictures frames you got there to another wall.
No.
Anyway, we want to carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on
this.
Witnessed a silver Cessna-sized disc hovering stationary over the village for about an hour. The witness would estimate the object to be around 50,000 feet high. Suddenly, it would simply move away and disappear from view. For about an hour. The witness would estimate the object to be around 50,000 feet high. Suddenly, it would simply move away and disappear from view.
Where's it reading?
Around 2 weeks prior to the Trans-en-Provence sighting, late in the evening of December 21st, 1980 in Mexico City, Mexico, was yet another similar sighting involving a hovering silver disc. At around 11 p.m., a mother with her 7- and 10-year-old sons witnessed a large, bright, flying saucer hovering over the top of a high-rise building. The witness claimed to see windows on the underside all the way around. After several moments, it began to rise and vanished. She would shout to her husband, who was slightly ahead of her as the family went back to their hotel on a Christmas vacation. However, he didn't hear. The witness would further claim that the object was most definitely made from solid material and didn't appear to make any significant noise. A sign close to home occurred in early 1982 in Les Avenirs, Bouvin, in France. A young girl playing with her cousins would witness a golden cigar-shaped thing made from riveted sheet metal. She could see no windows or doors. And what's more, the object didn't make any type of noise whatsoever. It was flying over a field, very slow and very close to the witness. She would later estimate the entire sighting lasted no longer than a few seconds, although it felt much longer. The witness would attempt to get an adult, but upon returning, the object was gone. What might the connection be? There are also several other UFO incidents that have left similar evidence of their visit behind. One of which, coincidentally or not, took place in France with another farmer, Maurice Mass being the witness in the town of Valenço. Although the sighting itself involved close contact with the occupants of the strange craft witnessed by Mass, when it had left, a huge wet circle remained where it had stood. Furthermore, nothing would grow in this circle for over a decade. A very similar incident occurred in Australia in September 1980, only months before the Trans-en-Provence case. Once more on a farm, George Blackwell would awaken to see a strange object on the ground. Interestingly, near the farm's water tank. When he inspected the grounds, a strange dark ring was clearly visible. Blackwell himself would become intensely unwell, although he would recover. None of the animals on the farm, nor birds who flew over it, would go any near the strange reminder of their mystery visitor, however. Perhaps the most famous of such evidence-leaving encounters was the incident in Delphos, Kansas, in November 1971. Once more, a strange circular mark remained behind following the apparent landing of a UFO. Most would describe the witnesses as very credible. And the case itself, whatever it may turn out to be sound in its detail. Might all of these bizarre cases share a connection with one another? And if so, what detailed and relevant information can we extract from that connection? Why, for example, do many of these similar incidents appear on farmland? Might it have a connection to the water supplies, as we have asked before? The video below looks at the Trans-en-Provence incident in a little more detail.
Everybody needs water.
Disclaimer.
It's finished.
The stories, accounts, and discussion in this article are not always based on
facts. Proven facts. What's that?
There's been a lot of that where these UFOs need water, isn't it? Where it's seawater or whatever, isn't it?
That seems to be a trend, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it seems to be fresh water, actually.
Yes, I think you're quite right. It's more often over lakes.
It's actually quite hard to remove salt from water, isn't it? It takes a lot of energy. Of course, it adds to the weight of the water too. Not too sure.
Yeah.
Not too sure. Yeah. Not too sure what the weight difference would be if you took a tank of water versus salt and fresh water, though. But that'd be a good thing to look at probably and see what the difference is. So if you can get stuff that's fresh, you're going to take it off to the moon base, right? You don't have to muck around with removing the salt. Although we do need salt and also iodine, right? As we get goiter. So you think maybe they would need salt themselves as well. Because if the nervous system uses salt to function, how does their nervous system work if it doesn't use salt, you know? So yeah. It's like all those trace elements, you know, whether you take multivitamins, they say, well, you need a certain amount of this in your system, else you can't sort of, you know, you're always tired, you know, if you've got not enough iodine, you're always tired, and all that sort of business.
Yeah, they always say that the aliens are so thin as well, aren't they? So
yeah.
They need a constant supply, because they won't be storing it in the body fat, would they, or nothing?
I don't know. I'm kind of convinced that what we see as aliens here is a kind of artificial intelligence, you know.
Yeah, like the Greys.
Not even sure they have the requirement to eat or drink at all.
Yeah.
Which means they would have to have some sort of fusion power, batteries of some kind.
I don't know about that.
It's like those
But,
nuclear batteries. Those nuclear batteries where they're taking it from the waste of UK power stations, and they've put it inside these cylinders with a layer of carbon, which they say is they call it diamond, false diamond or whatever. Make a certain grid pattern that goes around the outside, and the radiation gets caught by the carbon grid and converts into electricity and voltage. And the batteries can last 10 years. So I imagine they might have something like that, like a low-grade radioactive core, and using sort of like layers of carbon which converts into electricity. So that might be our future batteries even, although would people be happy with low-grade nuclear waste material from nuclear power stations in their laptops? I don't know, and phones. I suppose if it's no greater than background radiation, like spent rods, I guess, people might be okay with it.
Yeah, they wouldn't need charging up so much, would they?
No, they last 10 years, right? But they are looking at this carbon batteries now, with different materials. I think still lithium's used, lithium carbon batteries, and they're meant to take 5 minutes to charge them, and they last 4 hours or something like that, which they're trying to mess around with to try and get longer.
So the battery companies are going to allow it to happen because they want them to.
I don't think they want to release that technology too soon, though, because of this oil control in the world that we have going on. But I reckon the technology's there; it's just being suppressed. That's my gut feeling on it. I think we could have electric cars quite easily running off these 10-year batteries without even needing to charge them up, right? Where you can get enough amps from it to drive it.
Without even needing to stop.
Yeah, you just replace the batteries every 10 years or whatever, But yeah, could you imagine that would put the oil industry out of business quite drastically? But still, we'd need oil for plastic, and also medications are made from that, and other products are made from oil. But it wouldn't be used for powering us around the place, would it? In fact, in fact, those Google cars that fly around are using lithium batteries, and they only got enough charge in it to go one trip there and back from a certain distance, which is kind of useless. So they have to go and put them on charge, each person that drops back, and if you've got thousands of people, it's not going to be practical. So they need to improve the battery technology to progress. And it's probably there. It's just been suppressed, You often hear about a better battery being invented, and the guy sells it out to someone, and it turns out that that's a sub company of an oil company that then suppresses the technology. I don't know if you ever watched that documentary called EV1, or whatever it's called, the first electric car. That the people loved it. They said it was great, and then they took it off them, saying, the experiment using them is finished, and they went and crushed all the cars, and then the people wanted to buy it off them because they could just plug it into the wall and charge them, and it was good going around the city, right? What's the name of the documentary again? I can't remember, but I could probably find out. But yeah, it's a big conspiracy documentary, and it has people that own the cars there and why. And some guy on there is talking about the new battery he invented was bought out by this oil company and never seen the light of day after that, which is quite interesting. You have to go and watch the documentary.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're sidetracking here.
Yeah, it's okay. There's always going to be opposition to anything that outs oil, the oil industry, because there's such a heavily rich cabal. You could call them a cabal that's in charge. But I honestly don't think you could hold a new
Oh, this guy's gone. What's going on? Charles, you there? What's going on? Let's try to reload it. Is it still streaming, guys? Anyone out there? Are you back, guys?
The planet at the moment, I don't think.
Hey, hang on, you dropped. Robert, you dropped off for 5 minutes there. Hang on.
What?
Twice you just dropped off.
I just restarted my thing, thinking it was my end because I couldn't hear Charles either. So yeah, I just restarted it just in case. I thought maybe we've lost the internet, but it looks like the stream's still going.
Yeah.
Because you know, ISPs do have problems from time to time. I mean, you remember the Google outage? What, 1 hour? Not long ago. Yeah. I know Google do have a special battery farm outside the head HQ there, using some exotic new technology, isn't it? I can't remember exactly how it works, but they look like the substation outside the building, and it's meant to halve the electricity use. And also they got these special solar farms connected to this big, like, spinning wheel, I suppose you could call it, a flywheel, and they just spin it up, and it's spinning around, and it basically gradually, when the wind stops or the sun goes down, they can keep this flywheel spinning, which creates enough energy to power up a small city or something, you know. And so it's all sorts of crazy ideas like that.
Yeah.
If they just had a better battery, like we're talking about, it may do away with all that. So it's just a matter of time when some smartass figures it out, right, and it doesn't get suppressed. But yeah, 5 minutes ago you were just about to say something, and I don't know what it was about now.
Oh, I was just saying, if there was an alternative to oil, I think there will be some opposition.
Yeah, from governments.
Yeah, what I'd call the elite, the cabal, those billionaire people. They can throw their weight around, but I don't think you can hold back a new tech forever. You know, I mean, it's happened before. You know, during the Industrial Revolution, there was those people that found themselves out of jobs that were destroying machinery, but it didn't work. They just created an inconvenience for a short time, and you can't hold back progress. That's what I'm saying. It's going to develop at some time. The cabal, the rich people, will just have to evolve with it. Hello, have you got?
They've got no choice, have they? We're here.
Okay, that's.
They got no choice, have they, to go along with it?
I would imagine so, but they'll yeah.
Or they'll kick and fuss about it.
Yeah, or they'll jump on that same bandwagon and make it all about them. But anyways, I haven't quite finished with this the 1981 French case yet. It's just something else I thought was well worth looking at before we finish off on that case. Let's just hope now that's posted the right link. Yeah, I believe so.
What's that picture that Area 51 posted there? Can't quite make it out. It looks like a green face or some kind.
You hover it over, it says...
What is it?
Just hover over it with your mouse. With your cursor even.
Yeah, I probably should zoom in on the comments sometime. Yeah, it looks like a funny character there, huh?
3 capital S's and 3 small S's.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see that. Yeah.
Yeah, just put your mouse on top of it. Changes.
What? For me, not on there. Maybe
No,
it does on.
just for hours.
Yeah.
That's called SSSSSS. Doesn't do it on the other screen either. I get a tooltip. Can you chip in? No, what's all this bull crap coming up here? UFO briefing. Okay. Alright, didn't we just look at this one?
No. Keep scrolling down, Paul. Slowly now. Don't go too quick. Don't go too quick. Keep going. Whoa. Yeah, that's it. Go back a bit. Okay, back up a little bit to the point where, there we go. Traces were still perceptible 40 days after the event. So if you go from there, it's quite interesting because there was a decent bit of scientific analysis done on the trace evidence here.
I will try, but let's see what goes on.
Okay.
Photograph. Ground traces found in Trans-en-Provence in January 1981.
Where's it gone to?
Courtesy
I
of
don't know.
Mies/Sepra.
That's not what I selected though, was it?
No. You've gone past it now.
I selected that sentence there to read. Maybe you have to go back to this one here. Maybe just read from there. Okay.
The Trans-en-Provence case is very likely the most thoroughly scientifically documented CE2, close encounter of the second kind, ever investigated. Some of the scientific findings included: traces were still perceptible 40 days after the event. There was a strong mechanical pressure forced, probably the result of a heavy weight, on the surface. A thermatic heating of the soil, perhaps consecutive to or immediately following the shock, the value of which did not exceed 600 degrees. The chlorophyll pigment in the leaf samples was weakened from 30 to 50%. The young leaves withstood the most serious losses, evolving toward the content and composition more characteristic of old leaves. The action of nuclear irradiation does not seem to be analogous with the energy source implied with the observed phenomenon. On the other hand, a specific intensification of the transformation of chlorophyll could be tied to the action of a type of electric energy field. On the biochemical level, the analysis was made on the entirety of the factors of photosynthesis, lipids, sugars and amino acids. There were many differences between those samples further from the spot of the landing and those that were closer to the spot. It was possible to qualitatively show the occurrence of an important event, which brought with it deformations of the terrain caused by mass, mechanics, a heating effect, and perhaps certain transformations and deposits of trace minerals. We cannot give a precise and unique interpretation to this remarkable combination of results. We can state that there is, nonetheless, another confirmation of a very significant event, which happened on this spot. 106. Photograph. Ground traces found in Trans-en-Provence in January 1981. Courtesy of Mies/Sepra. Most of the puzzling biochemical mutations were discovered by Michel Baunias of INRA. Describing the young leaves to a journalist from François magazine, Baunias stated in 1983 that from an anatomical and physiological point, leaves, had all the characteristics of their age, but they presented the biochemical characteristics of leaves of an advanced age, old leaves. And that doesn't resemble anything that we know on our planet. 107. In a technical report published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, Baunias concluded that it was not the aim of the author to identify the exact nature of the phenomenon observed on the 8th of January 1981 at Trans-en-Provence. But it can reasonably be concluded that something unusual did occur that might be consistent, for instance, with an electromagnetic source of stress. The most striking coincidence is that at the same time, French physicist J.P. Petit was plotting the equations that led, a few years later, Petit, 1986, to the evidence that flying objects could be propelled at very high speeds without turbulence nor shock waves using the magnetohydrodynamic effects of Laplace force action. 108, see Chart 1. Chart 1, Summary and Conclusion of Trans-en-Provence Case. Courtesy of NIS/SEPRA. Out of a total of 2,500 reports collected officially in France since 1977, and investigated by Japan, this case and 3 other ground trace incidents, where strange ground traces were left after alleged UFO landings, continue to puzzle the original investigator, Jean-Jacques Velasco. At a meeting of the Society for Scientific Exploration, SSE, in Glasgow in 1994, Velasco summarized the 4 noteworthy cases with effects observed on vegetation, see Chart 2. Chart 2, for UFO cases with physiological signs on vegetation. Courtesy of NIS/SEPRA.
Yeah, that's just about it.
These
really,
cases
but
have
it
all been the
might be worth
subject of inquiries by the
looking
police.
at that chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't see it too well on the screen now, but
Yeah, you'd have to go full screen with that one.
yeah.
I think that's it.
Just basically the effects of the heat, isn't it? On
Well, it's more than the heat. You see, suggested interpretation, and look there in 3 of the 4 cases, we've got EMF coming up.
Yeah.
And that comes up so often with so many close encounters, especially landing cases. EMF effect, even when they haven't landed, they're stopping cars. And, EMF can have some strange psychological effects as well. It can cause severe anxiety, confusion, nausea.
headaches as well, like I say.
Oh, good God, it can cause long-term effects. Now, when you look at a case like Rendlesham in 1980, for example, when you've got people like John Burroughs and who's the other guy, Jim Penniston, who just don't have their stories. There was so much confusion going on that the stories don't match up perfectly. But with an EMF effect, that's perfectly normal. That is what you'd expect. In fact, you'd be kind of highly suspicious if they were both saying something identical.
Yeah.
But of course, both those witnesses have got slightly frustrated with each other because they were hoping that the other witness would say, yes, that is what happened, and vice versa.
And they just took none.
But they didn't really know what was going on. And that's what EMF does. You've only got to look that up, a simple Google search. I mean, you shouldn't really be sleeping right next to your router. That should be, it can cause sleep problems, all kinds of things. It's even been related to some cancers and other health conditions. Now, John Burroughs, for example, was compensated for his injuries.
Well, from the router?
No,
Router.
for God's sakes.
No routing allowed.
From the effects of the object that they seen in Rendlesham.
Yeah.
He had to have a valve replaced in his heart. And they said that was related. And they even withheld his medical records. His own medical records are still classified to this day. They won't even give his own medical records to him. Interesting.
That's suspicious.
No, but I mean the amount of EMF you'll get from your router is fairly negligible, really, but it could have a long-term effect if you're sleeping right next to it. You shouldn't even be sleeping right next to your mobile phone.
Most routers are only 5 milliwatts. It would only be
exactly.
It'd be it would just cook dead cells on the outer skin of your body. It's only when you put this phones underneath your pillow and sleep that it gives off a big peak when it first connects to the cell tower, and then it settles down. But the more dangerous is faulty battery. It bursts into flames. As you know, lithium is like a bomb. It just goes off because it's got the oxygen built into it, hasn't it? And it just goes.
Most people, because most people don't have the phone more than arm's length away from them.
No, you've
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem much evidence to say there's a lot of damage. That can you imagine, though, maybe a UFO, one of these craft, or whatever they are, giving off thousands and thousands of times?
Yeah.
You know, that is it's going to lead to problems, and it has led to problems.
It just sweeps over you.
You probably find that the electromagnetic radiation spectrum is quite vast, right? I've covered it in the past. You know, we're talking about 2 gigahertz all the way up to 100 gigahertz, whatever it was. You probably need to check out my 5G presentations I did again. So yeah. Why does it give off microwaves? Well, that seems to be like the common thing that we use in our own technology, right, for transmitting data. And cooking, of course. I don't think they're cooking abducted humans inside in the microwave, but you're going to see electromagnetic radiation is like all around us. Passing through us is radiation, of course. It leaves ionizing trails. That's where cancer can be caused. But microwaves generally don't penetrate that far into the body, and it will heat up and cook the cells, right? That's where the DNA damage happens. Opposed to radiation, where you normally got nuclear decay, and you got particles that are passing through your atoms and disrupting your DNA, which is more dangerous. So yeah, the only thing is microwaves can actually affect your eye vision, right? That's where the most dangerous part is. That the cells are less protected on the eyes than it is on the rest of the body because of the skin that we have. You know, the skin's quite thick, you know, probably talking about a centimetre thick is our skin, you know, around us. And it gets we get thin. It gets thinner as you age, I think, as well. But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, of course, skin does lose its consistency, doesn't it, as you get older?
And damage more easily.
And its flexibility
gone.
Loses its constitution, does it? Yeah, which is just an effect of cellular decay, I'm afraid to say. But okay, we've been going. Nearly 3 hours now. Do you want to do one more case? One more case, guys?
Go on, you might as well.
I did say we're going to cover the Red Bluff one, and
well, no, we might have to leave that till next week, Paul.
Trust you to change it all again, but okay, it's all right.
Look, Paul, I put them down in order, and you changed the order.
Right at the start.
Well, I didn't know. I wanted to make a title because you don't give me one, and I chose the easiest ones to sort of fit into a title space. So I'm not even sure what to call this one today. Nuclear cases, you know.
Well, can you do that at the end and try and talk about the UFO stuff now?
Well, I would have to do it at the end because I'm going to upload it, of course. Anyway.
Yeah, for me.
Carry on. Alien craft injuries. Sounds like an interesting one.
Yeah,
I think I listed that one.
Case.
I said military attacked in Brazil and the Red Bluff one, but anyway, I can get rid of the Red.
You did list that one, yeah.
I can get rid of the red bluff one if you want to leave it.
It's only a short start research. You know what's happened. You got the gist of what happened, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail on it.
All right. Yes, so we got more people watching now, I think. Anyway,
5 it says.
What's the time in America? It must be getting to evening, is it? Or late afternoon?
Well, it depends where you are in America, Paul, doesn't it?
We're in simplex again.
Yeah, so we're going to try and read out this one. Smaller print. Okay, we'll just give it a try.
Try not to cock it up.
Oh, yeah. It's not me, it's the technology.
Alien craft injures 2 military soldiers in Brazil. Published 1:47 p.m. July 1st, 2013. Sao Paulo, Brazil, November 4th, 57. At 2 o'clock in the morning of November 4th, 1957, at Fort Itaipu, located near Santos, Sao Paulo, Brazil, 2 guards were stationed atop the highest observation tower facing the ocean when they observed a very intense bright orange light in the sky. At first, they thought it was a star with increased brightness for some unknown reason. Then they realized it was an object coming down at high speed, directly over the fort. At about 1,000 feet, 305 meters, above them, the object reduced speed and slowly continued to descend noiselessly until it suddenly stopped and hovered at about 50 meters over the guards.
Paul?
At this altitude, the sentinels were able to see the shape of the UFO.
What do you want?
It suddenly speeded up then. When it was reading out. Yeah,
I didn't notice it.
I didn't notice. No.
I didn't notice.
Oh, unless there was a glitch on
Normally it glitches. Sometimes it glitches when it gets a new paragraph because it's got to process what it's going to say. But
okay.
I didn't see any speed up at all.
No, I didn't either.
UFO, which was circular, with an apparent diameter of 100 feet, and with an orange glow. The guards were afraid, and did not react. Each was armed with a submachine gun, but no thoughts came to their minds to shoot at the UFO, or to sound the alarm. At this time, they could hear a strong buzzing sound, like that of a generator, which emitted from inside the UFO. Suddenly, it shot downward, a strong heat wave hitting the 2 soldiers. It came with great intensity, but no flame or beam of light was visible. The heat wave set their uniforms on fire, and one of them, overcome by the intense heat, was knocked down unconscious. The other soldier, screaming in pain and fear, threw himself on the floor and crawled under a canyon for shelter. The cries awoke the garrison, but before any of the soldiers could respond to the area, all of the lights and electricity went out. Only a moderate heat penetrated the interior of the fort, but this, along with total darkness, was enough to cause panic. After 3 minutes or so, the heat subsided, and moments later, the electricity came back on. Some soldiers came out running to their battle stations, and many reported seeing the bright UFO moving away and disappearing up high in the night sky. The 2 men, in shock, were brought into the fort with first and second degree burns on more than 10% of their bodies, and received medical treatment. Next, the commander of the fort sent an urgent message to the headquarters of the Brazilian army. Shortly thereafter, the Brazilian Air Force was put on full alert and patrolled the area. After the incident, the fort was closed and put under investigation by the Brazilian government. Since the United States was known to possess more knowledge about UFOs, high-ranking Brazilian authorities requested assistance from the American embassy in their investigations. Almost immediately, officers of the Brazilian Army and U.S. Air Force flew to the fort, accompanied by researchers from the Brazilian Air Force. The result of the investigation was not made public. The sentries who were burned were still in serious condition, but were able to talk from time to time. After hearing their description of the incident, with details of the approach of the UFO and the alien heat, the researchers were left wondering why the guards were attacked. The case of Fort Itaipu was kept secret for a long time, and yet, the episode continues to this day without an explanation. Permanent link, http://
What's happened to your video there? Seems to be half of you gone, was it? Oh no, you're just very dark. Very dark, man. So what hat you got on there? It's not mine. You got a UFO on it.
Different one from last week, but I've got about 4 of them, you know. Yeah,
Not like-
different top last week as well. This isn't one of yours.
No.
But yeah, interesting thing about this case is the orange glowing object again, which we've already seen tonight with the 68 and 66 incursions over Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. So there's a little interesting comparison there because this was an Air Force base as well. Although I don't know if they had nuclear facilities there in 1957 in Brazil, it would have to have been an American base if they did. The only problem with this case is we've only got this witness. So let's have a look at what the extremely skeptical Kevin Vandal has to say about this. And it caused a little bit of a kerfuffle.
That's Randall was always doing that though, isn't he?
Yeah, he only seems to like the cases that he likes, Paul. Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's certainly. I'd rather someone be more skeptical than less skeptical, if you know what I mean. And you have to admit, when he researches things, he will not stop at anything, you know. Fair play to him, I'll give him that, but he doesn't think a hell of a lot of cattle mutilations. He thinks it's all nonsense. He thinks abductions nonsense. He said that originally, then he kind of went the other way.
Doesn't say that on the wiki.
Suggested that they were real. And then I seen him in a more recent interview where he was saying it's like paralysis again. So where the hell Kevin Vandal stands on abductions, I honestly don't know. I don't think he knows himself. I think he actually realized he was becoming extremely unpopular in the UFO community because he didn't believe in abductions and kind of changed his mind for a little while.
Don't sound like he's researched it if he thinks it's sleep paralysis, because half of them work in the daytime.
No, is it? Hell, it's not sleep paralysis. I'm telling you now, something else is going on. I've had sleep paralysis since I was around 12 or 13. It doesn't feel anything like an alien abduction. Nothing like it at all. This is what every skeptic goes to when it comes to abductions. Yeah, it's some American middle-aged housewife making things up for attention, or it's sleep paralysis. I mean, people have been taken from cars, people have been taken when they're fishing, people have been taken when they're walking their dogs. You know, how the two people in a car both get sleep paralysis at the same time, have the same experience of alien abduction, while they don't even manage to crash the car while they're sleeping. Come on now, it's not working that.
So on land and sea, there wasn't in ships as well.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, my rant's over.
Yeah.
For Itaipu and Footnotes.
Alright, I'm going to have a problem with it, are we?
Oh, well, that was good. That was long.
Seems to want to select all of it on the page for some reason.
Triple click, Paul. Just triple click. Don't try and move left to right like that, and you'll cover all the text then.
I've been working on my new book, which is sort of a follow-up to Government UFO Secrets. Notice that I've slipped the name of my last book into this, and I have been doing something that I don't think is being done very much. I've been chasing footnotes again. This means as I research a case, looking for all the information available on it, I attempt to return to the original source as much as possible. One way of doing that is look at the footnotes in other books to see where they gathered the information. The case in question here is the attack on Fort Itaipu, Brazil on November 4, 1957. According to all those other sources, 2 sentries on duty saw a new star blossom in the distance, over the Atlantic Ocean, fly toward them, hover, and then slowly descend. It was an orange disk that was humming slightly. There was a blast of heat that caused the sentries to panic. One fell to the ground unconscious, and the other torn at his clothes screaming. That alerted the garrison, all of whom apparently reacted to the UFO. About the same time, as the confused soldiers attempted to find out what was happening, the lights failed, as did their communications ability, their generators, and even their weapons. The electricity came back quickly and the clocks, set to ring at 5 a.m., began at 2:03 a.m. The injured soldiers were removed, first to the infirmary, and later to an army hospital. The fort commanding officer ordered an information blackout, telling the soldiers not to discuss the case with anyone, not even their fellow soldiers. Someone did talk, and Dr. Olavo Fontes, APRO's representative in Brazil, learned of the case some 2 or 3 weeks later. Though he tried to interview the soldiers, using his contacts as a medical doctor, he failed. His information came from some of the officers at the fort, but he never mentioned their names, nor did he identify the soldiers. This is the bare bones of the sighting. As I was conducting my research, I looked to see what others had written about the case. In the APRO Bulletin of September 1959, Fontes' tale was published apparently as it appeared in his book Shadow of the Unknown. Later in 1962, Coral Lorenzen, in her 1962 book, The Great Flying Saucer Hoax, The UFO Facts and Their Interpretation, repeated the information supplied by Fontes, but in her own words. She suggested that Fontes had talked to an officer who was at the fort, but she didn't supply his name, or that of the sentries. Jacques Vallée, in Anatomy of a Phenomenon, quotes from Lorenzen's book, and adds nothing new to the case. Donald Kehoe, in Aliens from Space, reports on the case in his own words, but there is nothing in that report that is new or different. He does speculate about alien motivations, and their worries about our first tiny steps into space. Kehoe wrote, "It would also mean that the burnings were intended as a demonstration of superior weapons they could use against aggressive explorers from Earth." But the point is that everything comes back to the article by Fontes in the APRO Bulletin. I could find no new information about the case that wasn't traced to Fontes. I did email Tiago Luiz Tichetti, a Brazilian UFO researcher, and a co-editor of Revista UFO and coordenador de Revista UFO Brazil, www.ufo.com.br, who did update the case for me. He wrote that he had been unable to verify the tale of the injured soldiers, and unable to verify the power outage, whether it was momentary or something a little longer. According to what he told me, most Brazilian UFO researchers believe that there had been a UFO sighting, but the details of what would be a close encounter of the second kind, meaning a sighting in which there are some sort of physical effects, remained unverified. Fontes, according to his own writings, never got the chance to talk to the sentries, so much of what he wrote about their reactions had to come from the officers that Fontes said he had interviewed. The problem is that he never identified them. The tale then is based, at best, on second-hand testimony, and we have no way to verify the information supplied by Fontes. We must trust him based solely on the trust that Coral Lorenzen had in him, and if we have no faith in that, then almost everything he wrote about the Fort Itaipu case must be carefully scrutinized. In the end, the best we can say, based on what we know, is that there was a UFO sighting, and the other elements are yet to be verified. Posted by K. Randall.
Yeah. Now the only thing here was that Fontes was highly respected, you know. So if we scroll down a little bit here, you might come to a comment by I think his name's Rudiak. He's the one that investigated the General Ramey
Go down more.
memo. Yeah, keep going, Paul, but slowly, please, until you get to it. David Rudiak, I think his name is. Keep going. There we go. David Rudiak said. There we go. So if you want to read that out and Kevin's response to it a little later.
I don't even see what you're reading. Oh, right. There.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the rest of it there? Is it? You want me to read that out to you?
Yeah. I can read it out if yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what happened there? Oh, I didn't do anything.
Oh.
It's like something.
Just
no, something.
Just
clicked the mouse.
press back. Yeah, just press back.
It's like something clicked the mouse. I swear. Something strange is going on.
Yeah.
I reckon we got bloody Men in Black again. I tell you. Some arsehole hacker probably's got remote control. Yeah, let's see if it works now.
October 13th, 2014 at 11:32
a.m. No.
But you saw what I selected. I didn't read it out.
Look, do you want me to read it out?
I can't even find where it is now. Was it here? No. Yeah, it's a difficult. It's a difficult place.
Okay. Do you want me to read it out, Paul?
Whereabouts was it again, guys?
Go up it.
There? Was it?
That is.
Now let me just see if I can get it going again. I'll select it all and read it that way. Can't go wrong then. Oh, down to there, that'll do. Read. Here we go. It's got to work this time.
David Rudiak said, Dr. Olevo Fontes was like the Dr. James MacDonald of Brazil, extremely intelligent, dogged, and a pillar of integrity. I've never known an instance where he was ever suspected of making it up. He almost certainly was approached by somebody saying he was an officer, and this incident did occur. He probably vetted the source as best he could and then ran into a wall of secrecy he couldn't penetrate. Doesn't mean the incident happened. Maybe somebody played Fontes. No doubt Fontes, like everybody, could make mistakes. But it just burns me up when he is accused of making it up. Unlike CDA, the fact that it was said to have happened at the same time as the car Stallings and Stokes incident in the US, where Stokes said he felt a wave of heat from a UFO and seemed to have a heat rash afterward, makes perfect sense, rather than indicating a copycat case. All incidents might be explained by the emission of strong microwave radiation. The US military later developed non-lethal warfare microwave weapons that do the same thing as described at Fort Itaipu, namely a microwave weapon that makes people feel like they are burning up and force them to retreat. See e.g. http://en.wikipedia.org/
Whoa. So now we've got another introduction in the case that it could be some kind of secret weapons testing, non-lethal weapons testing. But I think what he was referring to there was the string of incidents that happened also in 1957 at the famous Leveland case. But yeah, he's a little bit upset with Randall's comments there. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you can. I'll read this out, Paul. So this is Kevin Randall's response. David, I certainly appreciate your defense of Fontes, but I'm not as enthusiastic as you about this report. As has been pointed out, There are no names associated with it. None. The sentries have never been identified. The officers have not been identified, and there's no paperwork about this case. Friends in Brazil have investigated the case. They believe that the case is at best a UFO sighting. I will note that I found Fontes' reports of the reactions of the sentries and the officers to be somewhat over the top. I wonder why there were only 2 sentries, why there was no corporal of the guard, no sergeant of the guard, and no officer of the day. In other words, there's some important details missing. In the end, I accept the investigation completed by those in Brazil who attempted to follow up on what Fontes had found. Without some additional information, I must accept what they found on their follow-up investigations, which basically was not much. So, yeah, and there we go. If you scroll down a little bit more, somebody else has chimed in here talking about the Leveland case. So I don't know. It's up in the air, isn't it? There may have been an event. There may not have been an event. And yeah,
weapons testing or something like that, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could have been
accidents.
Yeah, I'm just looking down here now, see if there's anything else of interest in the response. But it sounds an incredible tale, and there seems to be lots of people involved. But it's only when you start looking at it and you know, under the microscope that we don't have a single we don't have a single first-hand witness. We only have the testimony of Fontes, the UFO researcher at the time, who claims to have interviewed one of the officers that were there. So yeah, we just haven't got a lot to go on. There's no way you can just pin your hat on a case like this, is there? No.
Maybe the others have been moved away.
But you know, there's certain pieces of this case that just sound. They sound right. They've got a ring of truth about it, you know. But we've just got no way of verifying anything. And yeah. I think they've reviewed the access again. I would agree that Fort Itaipu is a cold case with not much to go on. Yet suggestions that there might have been something to it, based on the few present-day witnesses who confirm something did happen, it strikes me that Fontes did not make it up. They even provide details. One soldier died. They would never have been treated elsewhere, not at Fort Itaipu, and his rifle was melted and twisted. But Fontes never mentioned, nor did anybody else writing about it previously. That sounds like something did happen, and it may have escalated over time. I don't know.
It takes some heat to melt the gun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was another case in Russia like that. You know, where missiles were melted on a launch pad. I don't know. And the thing is, cases like that, they're the ones that are most likely to be buried without trace, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've got to the end of that, and I think that one's in the eye of the beholder. You either love it or you hate it.
Alright, just close it there. So yeah, Merry Christmas everybody. I'll let you know if we're going to do stuff next weekend still. But it should be alright for a go. But you never know if anything comes up since it's after Christmas.
Yeah, so 25th will be the Friday. The Saturday will be Boxing Day.
It is Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Sunday for us and Monday as well. It'll be Saturday and Sunday for America. But
if nothing's going on, You know, happy birthday to JD, Area 51, Tommy.
Birthday?
All the others. Birthday? Did I say birthday?
Yeah, you said birthday.
That was a glitch in the system. We're definitely living in the Matrix.
You never know, it might have been one of them.
Yeah, you never know. Could have been. Yeah.
Happy Christmas or season greetings. You're not allowed to say Christmas anymore.
You're not allowed to say Christmas.
We do.
Well, you just did.
Yeah. You know, the PCers and religion and all that out there.
If people have got family and stuff around, it's not no problem. Like, maybe I'll be too hungover to. Who knows?
Christmas is normally eat too much and for the kids to be sport with lots of presents, right? Nowadays, nowadays we used to get Tonka cars and and things with flashy lights on it. That's about as far as it got for us. Nowadays they got drones that fly around and robots and RC cars.
I used to love my Tonka trucks when I was little.
So did I, actually.
Last for years, didn't
they? Yeah.
Tonga truck now, stand on a damn thing, it'll fall to pieces.
Yeah, all my stuff still around. Went to my sister's kids, actually, and as far as I know, they still got it. I had this big dump truck thing, and it's like a foot or a foot and a half long and a foot wide. Nowadays they make plastic versions that don't last, right? But you can't beat the old Tonkas and Matchboxes.
Made for us, they did.
I used to have a train set and multiple train sets, and used to build it up on the floor. And I used to have the race slot car one, Skull Electrics, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, Skull Electric.
Yeah. And
Evil on his bike.
There was another one I had that had a long spring that used to go around in a circle, and you put the car with a little. You could put Matchbox cars on it, or it had a little spike you could stick on underneath, and you could race any Matchbox car you wanted. I can't remember what that was called. Did you have anything like that? It used to be noisy as hell though, but it used to have the spring that used to go around the channel off all the different connection points. You used to poke the spring into it all. And electric motor would rotate the spring around, and the cars would be between the spring edges, and it would just drag it along. And you could race them. Of course, all that got replaced with those little miniature RC Matchbox ones, right? They're only, really tiny micro races, or whatever they call it. Using microwave technology, radio to control them.
Do you know my main memory of Christmas as a child was heating up batteries on the fire?
Batteries?
Well, blowing them up.
Yeah, because
it sounds dangerous.
It does. No, we used to do that all the time. Now, of course, Father Christmas, sorry, not my parents. The silly bugger, he used to deliver his toys with batteries not included. So you'd have, big tantrum. You can't use your toy because it's got no batteries. So the parents would drag the batteries out of something else, and of course they were dead. Well, especially after 5 minutes, and then they'd reheat them. And by reheating them, you'd get another 5-10 minutes. So by the time the shops opened again, and you could go out and buy some new batteries for your new toys. Yeah, the batteries had been recycled and heated up so many damn times it was unbelievable.
I've never done that one.
No, that one either.
Yeah, we used to put them on the fire, not too close.
Advise anybody to do that these days.
Yeah, it rejuvenates them, but only for a short time.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise anybody doing that.
No, it's chemical reaction.
No. Hold on, should I put a disclaimer?
Yeah, you're breaking up, guys. You're talking over each other. Charles, you started off really good, and now, probably in the last hour, your audio's deteriorated for some reason. So I'm not too sure what's going on there with Jitsi, but you've been
Well,
pretty good all night.
I
And
could be a child
even
fine,
you
I'll-
are breaking up now, Robert. It's almost like Robert, by having you on, acted as a I don't know, sort of buffering for Charles's system, and both your audio have been good most of the night from what I've heard anyway. It's only now that if you talk over each other, it breaks up.
But it
I reckon
always
if you
does that when
yeah,
talk
but
over, it's
they didn't. It wasn't at the beginning of the night though. It wasn't like that. That's what I'm saying. You go and listen back, you'll see you're talking over people, and everybody's at the same level.
Oh.
But anyway, it's kind of crazy how it sort of goes wrong. Yeah, must be a bug in the system. But anyway, we better wrap up, and it's come up to 3 hours and 15 minutes. Do we need to do a FMI there at all? No.
On the last one?
Nah,
on that last one, I think you've got to go straight down the middle, haven't you? Something may have happened or may not have happened.
Yep. So I'll just end it here then and say Merry Christmas, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you next weekend. If not, I'll let you know on Discord and socials. Unless something changes. Yeah. There was something else I was going to say. If any new BitChute users out there, do join our Twitch group because it helps us out. I don't know what's going on with people lately, but yeah, we need more people on the side chatting. It's like they won't wean off YouTube. They won't come off YouTube and follow us on Twitch for some reason. But yeah, we've got it all set up so it's the same as YouTube pretty much. You can do that super dinner. Yeah, our group has disappeared. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've lost all our female ufologists, pretty much, haven't we? But that's all right.
One we didn't care about. The other one we do, Susan.
Yeah.
We do care about Susan.
Not the other one.
I don't know. I think she's.
Say nothing.
Yeah, I think she's a bit occupied with stuff at the moment. Who's this Zigrata though? Zigrata seems to be speaking a southern language.
Oh, this is a person that just joined.
Okay.
Just joined right at the end.
Sounds very German. I don't know. So we might have a female here on the group now. But anyway, we're going to wrap up now with the end credits. And remember that Saturdays are normally video analysis days, and Sundays is with Rob talking about UFO cases. He doesn't like us debunking on his cases. But anyway, we're trying to keep a balance here, and we are truth seekers. And we've all had our own experiences in some respects.
You can't really say I don't like debunking because I've just debunked my own case there, haven't I? You know. You getting more used to it, I should say. Skeptics. But anyway, we'll just kick it off here and say goodnight. Yep.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Jingle bells, sing along. We
Rob,
can't play those.
safe.
We can't play any Christmas music because it's all copyrighted. Censorship and free speech. Yeah. Stay safe on the roads and don't drink and drive. Don't end up like a Tyler. Kalokna. Okay.
Got no fear of me doing that.
No, yeah. I had a mate kill himself doing that.
Okay, I'm off anyway, guys, right?
Okay, mate. See ya. Bye bye. I have to get ready to end on streaming here. If you want to say something on the side chat, you've got a few seconds left. Takes a wee while for it to end. About a minute in case it's dropped off.